If you're in business, you probably have a website, but can your site handle your growth? How many visitors before your site slows down or crashes? What about storage and data security? From web hosting to virtual servers, Pair Networks provides the online infrastructure you need to start, grow, and flourish. When it comes to security and updates, don't worry, we've got you covered. Our 24/7 US-based customer support is the best in the industry. No frustrating chatbots or sitting on hold for hours. Check out pair.com today to learn more. That's PAIR.com.
All right, so this is episode 101, and you may be asking yourself, where's episode 100? If you don't follow me on social media or know me in person, then you probably haven't seen that episode 100 got lost to the ages. As it stands, it was a banger of an episode too, almost 4 hours long. It was me, Mark Unseen, Joe Hawk, and Chris Pittman, who you may know from a past episode. He's a paranormal and UFO researcher. He's on Ancient Aliens, the TV show. He was on the Bridgewater Triangle documentary and things like that. Go back and listen to his episode if you haven't heard it already. I don't recall the exact episode number, but it's early on, probably within the first 30 episodes. But yeah, so what happened was it was the first episode that we had where there was any technical difficulties and glitches. The card that it was recorded on, the SD card, had a crack in it. And when I went to transfer it from the card to my computer so that I could upload it, it started just glitching out and frying and doing all kinds of wacky stuff. And we tried everything we could to save the files and to retrieve the data, and it just didn't work. And thank you to everybody that had a hand in that. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the listeners for sticking around and sticking with us for the first 100 episodes and blowing this podcast up the way beyond any expectations. This was just a fun thing to do, especially when everything was wacky the last few years. So thank you to everybody that's listening, that is a past, present, and future listener, and especially to all the Patreon subscribers. You guys rule. Episode 100, we're going to re-record, so it's coming down the pipeline, so keep a lookout for that soon. But right now, listen to this interview we're about to do here with my man Phill, who's another paranormal investigator from the area. Going to be an interesting one, so keep it locked.
Sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
Yes, we have liftoff. I want to thank you for tuning into this episode of Big Truth Podcast, episode 101. And I'm here with my man, Phill Anderson, who you may know off of Instagram and all the other social medias as Exploring with Phill, or on YouTube, which is pretty much your main focus, right? Is where your show is on.
Yep. Yeah. Weekly videos, 7 p.m. on Thursdays. Yep.
Canadian Dutch Boys
Studios.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I'll have links to everything in the show notes, so you don't have to worry about it. And we'll talk about it more at the end. But Phil's a paranormal researcher and explorer, and into all things paranormal. You're not you don't focus on one thing.
Yeah, kind of open, but it's just because, I primarily focus Bridgewater Triangle, and so there's various amount of claims. So I kind of keep my mind open just because you never know what you might find or see.
Yeah. Well, if you're into the Bridgewater Triangle, you have to be into cryptids, to ghosts,
right? UFOs,
satanic cults. Pretty much, it's all there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or all reported of having been there at some point. So, but that's what I meant. It's not like genre, because some people are just like ghost.
Sure.
UFO
you're right, because there's Bigfoot people. There's UFO. It's people that stick in very particular genres or whatever. No, but just paranormal. Yeah. So anything out of the ordinary, which kind of covers everything.
Yeah. And for you, it's more regional right now.
Mm-hmm.
So you're it's not like you're focusing on one thing, but you're looking at all the paranormal activity within kind of like the New England region, at least for now. Right?
Yeah, for the most part. Once in a while I do, if I do travel out, like I just went to Pennsylvania, I went to Gettysburg, so that was cool. But primarily most of the time I'm in the Bridgewater Triangle, Hockomock Swamp, Freetown State Forest. Yeah, you mean almost I haven't gone to every single place in the Bridgewater Triangle, but I'm definitely knocking them off my list for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's big.
Oh,
So-
dude,
so
there's
plenty.
it's endless. And just when you think you're like, oh man, I'm gonna run out of places, there's a new legend or story that I've never heard about,
Yeah.
and then I go check that place out. So no, it's never ending, and it's been an awesome experience, and I'm excited to keep on going. So
Hell yeah, man. And remind me, I'm looking over my shoulder. There's a chop ahead art that my man Dan Tantillo drew, tattoo artist. So you can't see it from here, but it's a chop ahead Bridgewater Triangle piece. So
Oh, I love it.
It's got all the elements in it. It's got,
that's cool.
It's basically Bigfoot riding the chopper with
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Puckwudgie in the back, a Thunderbird flying overhead. They're going
That's
over
awesome.
like a upside down pentagram or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just getting all this stuff in.
Yeah, yeah.
You'll
I love
dig
it.
it. I'll show it to you later.
Yeah, hell
I
yeah.
totally forgot about it. I can just see it out of my peripheral vision right now. As always, we're broadcasting live from the third motorcycle lift here at Chopperhead. Even though it is spring and it's wacky and crazy in here, we had a lift clear off today, so I set back up on the lift instead of a table. But Phill, what got you, before we even talk about your investigations and all the stuff you get into, give people who might not be familiar with you kind of like your background story, like what got you into this and how you got on this path.
well, I would say it probably. I mean, obviously, I was interested in the paranormal as a child.
Yeah.
I had various claims. I had various things that happened to me as a kid, different things over the years. But I would say as far as like really getting into investigating and doing what I do as far as the weekly YouTube stuff, it would probably be now 3 years ago in the town that I lived, they had a ghost hunt at the town hall. And I was like, I would love to do that. That's cool. I've always been interested in paranormal, ghosts, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, this is something I would definitely like to do and try. And so I went, I loved it. And then that's kind of how the kernel of the idea kind of started, or kind of grew in me. And I was like, oh man, I could do this, every single week and because prior to that, I was interested in doing YouTube, but more like the exploring side, like as far as abandoned buildings, stuff like that. And not that I didn't think about doing the paranormal, but my main focus was that. And then like Randonautica was also very popular at the time. This is like now 2 years ago when I really started my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with Randonautica or...
I've never played with it, but I've heard of it. It's basically you go in and it send you someplace kind of random.
Right.
So explain a little bit about
Sure.
that.
Because that's basically how my YouTube channel started, was doing Randonautica stuff. So Randonautica is an app that you download on your phone. And basically how it works is you set your own intention. So you open the app and there's different little things. You press the button and you're like, just for example, there's a fox right over there behind you.
Yeah.
We'll just say your intention's fox. So you hit the button, you're like, it says focus on your attention. You're like fox, 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 fox. It'll send you to a
You gotta
coordinate.
be careful when your intention is fox.
Yes.
You gotta be careful. You gotta specify FOX. You
Yes.
can't let Massachusetts accents get involved and
Yeah,
screw
right.
things up, or it's gonna send you someplace really weird.
Yeah, for sure. So theoretically, that's how it works. It'll send you to a spot, and allegedly you'll be a better chance to find that fox.
Yeah.
Is how the app works. So the app got famous because a group of teenagers set their intention, and it was death.
Yeah.
And so it sent them to a shoreline in Seattle where they live, and they found two suitcases on the shoreline. And so they smelled. They're like, oh, this is kind of weird. They get closer. Eventually, they call the police because they're concerned. The police find 2 dead bodies inside of the briefcase.
Yeah.
And so that's how the app got famous, because and these teenagers, they set the intention of death, and it takes them to death.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's
Even if it's like 100% lottery, random thing, it's going to get in the public
for
psyche.
sure.
That, all right, this thing
this
is-
app's evil and all that kind of stuff. So I've listened to interviews with.
But is it? Because if your
Right.
focus was on death and it sent you to death, it's just doing its job.
It's just doing it right. And so the creator of the app, has gone on interviews and talked about the app. And it was basically like, hey, look, it uses quantum computers, and that's how it gets the locations. It'll send your intention allegedly and then to a quantum computer, and that's how it works. So he was saying all it really does, it gives you a 10% better chance at finding what you're looking for than random chance would. Meaning, like if you take a dart and you have a map and you just threw the darts and you checked all those spots, the Randonautica app will give you a 10% better chance than doing that.
Okay.
So that's basically how it works. And so I got started doing Randonautica videos to try to see if the app was evil, if there was really, really taking people to bad things. And so that's kind of how I got started. And so I was like, well, what are the better place to go than Freetown State Forest, Huckamuck Swamp? And so that's kind of how I started. And then that transformed into like, I stopped doing Randonautica and I just kind of focused in on doing, regular paranormal investigations.
So what is the most, what are some of the more interesting experiences or places that, before we get into current stuff, like with Randonautica sent you, was there anything that knocked
dude,
it out of the pocket?
There was some weird. One of the weirdest things it sent me, I was in this little area. It's just like a very small like park. And I prefer parks and stuff like that when you play Randonautica, because sometimes if you do a point, you drive all the way there, it's in someone's backyard.
Yeah, and you can't get in.
Right. And so I was like, well, why don't I go to a place where no matter where the point is, I can get to the point?
So does it do it within a certain circumference?
Whatever radius you set, you can set different radiuses, and so it's not like a crazy big area. It'll
unless you choose it.
Unless you choose it to be. So I picked one of these places because I could access the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I think my intention, it's been so long since I did it, but I think my intention was something strange. And I start walking in.
Now, do you physically type in?
Yeah.
Something?
So it says just to like visualize your intention.
Oh, okay.
So I usually will like say it aloud.
Yep.
Be like, something strange, as it's working. So that's just how I did it. So I get the point. I start walking. I do the intro of the video because it's like my first point. And on the way in, I see this woman kind of like standing in front of a tree, but facing the tree. Like, but awkwardly close to the tree.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it caught my eye. I'm like, what is she doing?
Yeah.
So it looked like she was just like texting maybe or something. Oh, I was like, okay, that makes sense. But as I get closer, she is not texting. She has her hands on the tree. And so I'm like, okay, that's not normal. That's kind of weird. I think that's kind of strange. You don't
Something
see that.
strange there,
You don't see that every day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I walk by a filmer a little bit just to show that what she was doing. So then I go to my point, and it takes me to this little area where there's like someone had built these like trees or whatever, but I was pretty sure that was my intention because that was something strange.
Yeah.
And so that same day, my next intention was something lost, right? On the way to the point, guess what I find? A pair of women's jeans sitting on like a rock or something. And at first you're like, oh yeah, big deal, women's jeans, no big deal. I think it's kind of weird that there's a pair of women, like what woman is taking off her pants and leaving her pants?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was weird.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So those are like two things that happened to me where it's just like, that's kind of strange.
Sure, yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that was in the Freetown State Forest while I was playing Randonautica. It wasn't my exact point, but on the way to a point or coming back.
It's a good Freudian slip, right? Because of your intent and you're thinking about it, it's almost kind of like praying a little bit.
Yeah.
Not really, but you know what
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So I look down on the pathway as I'm walking the path, and there's like a Poland Spring bottle down there. And it kind of catches my eye because it looks like there's paper in it. And so I'm like, huh. And so I go down, I pick it up. There is paper in it. And so I open it, I get the paper out, I unroll it, and it says, please call. And it has a phone number in it, And so I was like, that's creepy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's Freetown State Forest too, because you're like,
yeah, it's already got a tainted kind of.
Yeah. So it was weird. So I didn't call it, but I did text it, never got a response back. But I don't know what to make of it. I don't know if that person had just ill intent or if they just put one of their friends' phone numbers in there to scare their friend or something.
Or just some.
Right. But
it was playing a prank on each other.
Right. Yeah, probably the case, but still weird.
Yeah.
Still really, especially where it was.
Yeah.
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 It's Freetown State Forest.
we did something similar to our friend years ago. And when we were kids, like the local supermarket still like had a board on it where you could post like pre-internet, right? You could post want ads or like lists and stuff. We were kids, we put like free yard work, call Kevin.
Yeah.
Left his number and stuff. His phone was blown. His parents, because this is when we were in high school, the kid still lived at home. He's like, why are all these people calling saying you're going to mow their lawn, blah, blah, blah. And he's like freaking out. It was like a big mystery in the house. I couldn't figure out what was going on.
Of course. Oh, man.
And then he looked, he's like, dude, I know you jerks, whatever. But yeah, just dumb stuff. But,
yeah, that's awesome.
So, but before we get too far in, like, if you don't mind, and if it's too personal or whatever, but like, what were some of the things that happened to you as a kid that even got you interested in paranormal stuff?
My first ever experience I ever had, I was only, I think, 4 or 5, and where we lived. This is in Wareham, where we lived, actually right near, like, where Tremont Nail is, or ever hear about Tremont Nail?
I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like right near Tremont Nail, kind of the old part of Wareham. And so we live in this apartment. My parents' bedroom's on the second floor, and it was like the only bedroom up there.
Yeah.
And so I think I was just playing or whatever, and I went upstairs and was playing up there or whatever. My mom's downstairs in the kitchen doing her thing. It's just me and my mom at this point. You know, I have no other brothers and sisters. They're not around or whatever.
No one else is in the house.
No, just us, you know. And I'm up there, and all of a sudden I hear like glass break, like in the room I'm in.
Yeah.
And I don't see no glass.
How old are you?
Like 4 or 5.
Okay.
I hear the glass break, and then I hear people talking, like in the room I'm in.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's hard to remember exactly what they said because I was 4 or 5 years old, but I felt it was someone talking like right in the room, but like there's no one there.
Yeah.
You know, so I get scared, of course. I've seen Ghostbusters at this point in my life.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? So I run downstairs. I tell my mom like, "Hey, I heard glass break up there, and there's people talking. Blah blah blah." You know, she goes up there and doesn't see anything, doesn't find anything. You know. And it stuck with me for a long time because that was like my first kind of experience.
Sure.
You know, and then, I had a couple experiences after that and stuff like that. But that was like my first where I was like, okay, there's something going on here. Then, maybe Ghostbusters is real.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So before you thought about doing investigations, like you had a couple things happen to you, but did that lead to like, did you read about that stuff? Did you read about paranormal stuff?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another thing that helped too is going the library in school.
Yeah,
I remember because my dad was a military guy, and so and I loved G.I. Joe growing up, and so I was always wanted to emulate my dad. So I was always like very much into like military things and like history and stuff like that. And so I'd get these like little military books, and so there'd be about like Civil War, all these different World War II, all these different things, just kind of like with a lot of pictures and stuff because they're for children. Yeah. And so I get to the last book in the series, and guess what it is? It's Ghosts of Gettysburg.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, and here and so that was like the first thing shortly after it, because this is like maybe 2 years after that experience.
Okay.
So then I'm like, oh wow, like this is like really is a thing. Like there's like a book about it. You know what I mean? Because you got to remember, in the 80s and stuff and 90s, like there wasn't a lot of ghost stuff out there that was like, except even like Bigfoot stuff, UFOs. A lot of that stuff was very fringe back in those days.
It was fringe, or it was like fun, campy, but it wasn't serious.
Right, it was not taken seriously at all. Like if people said they saw a ghost or something, be like, yeah, okay. Yeah. Most people, that's how it was back then. So here I am seeing this book, and it like validated to me that like, oh yeah, no, this is a real thing, because here's a real book that's saying that these ghosts are, Ghosts of Gettysburg, and these ghosts are real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Cool. Yeah. And I remember when I was a kid, same thing, not same thing, but it was like, I just remember there would be like, remember there was a Time Life?
Yes.
Like encyclopedia of like the paranormal stuff. And then there was another one called Man, Myth, and Magic. And I recently, a couple of years ago, I bought the whole set again.
Oh, that's awesome.
I got some over there. I'll show you. And these were crazy because it's pre-internet. So it's like how you found out about a lot of weird things. And it was I just feel it's funny because like, it's just interesting to hear how people are drawn to it, because like, I don't know how it was. We were all kids. Like, it was just like, oh, that's, got into weird stuff. Like just always, and even later, like, in middle school and stuff, I got into like other weird stuff, like punk rock and skate, things that were outside of the mainstream. But even but I think that's all from as a kid getting into like weird paranormal and not the regular stuff. Right.
And just kind of drawn to that like alternative, different.
Yeah. And I don't know why. And it was like funny. There's a funny memory came back. I just remember there was a documentary, but it was released in theaters about the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, wow.
And this is like this is probably 70s or early 80s. Yep. I'm going to look it up. And I remember pestering my father to bring him like, no, we got to go. Come on. I want to see it.
Yeah.
And I was still in elementary school. And I remember we got home and I was scared shit. Like, and I was like, Dad, you got to leave the light on. I'm not like, I made him leave the light on and the whole thing, cause like, I was 8 years old or something. I was like, leave the light on. I don't want to, because it was like.
I was the same way as a kid too. You know what I mean?
I mean, you want to know all this stuff, and then when you're alone dealing with it, you're like, nah, what did I do?
Yeah, you want to know, then it gets close to you, then you don't want to know.
Yeah. But then you go back. When I look in I'm down.
Whatever. So, for sure.
So 3 years ago, you're doing the stuff with the Randonautica and stuff, and then it kind of hit you to.
Yeah, then it basically just kind of, I don't want to say transformed overnight, but slowly I just kind of got away from Randonautica and just kind of started doing like paranormal, I would say paranormal investigation / exploring too as well.
Well, that's
same
the
thing.
exploring.
Yeah.
Phil,
Yeah, right.
So
No.
did you do things like regular, like you said, you doing like exploring like abandoned places and stuff?
Yes.
And then you added the paranormal.
Yeah, and well, the paranormal found me.
Yeah.
You know, because like, so I could tell you that story if you want. So during Christmas, I love abandoned buildings. Like that was another one of my huge interests. I don't know why I'm drawn to them. I love history. So I love time capsules and, going to one of the coolest things I've ever found in an abandoned house is this old Bible from the 1700s. And it has their whole family history in it. Like,
and then it's like, why is that left? Like, why did
that's
not
my
one
point.
kid take it?
Right, you know what I mean? Here's like literal history that should be like sound like Indiana Jones. Should be in a museum.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's sitting in this abandoned house, just rotting. Eventually, going to be torn down. No one's going to see it. No one's going to, So like that's what had drawn me into that. So fast forward to my story. Christmas time, I wanted to take a break from the paranormal because number one, it just takes a lot out of you editing wise. Because it's not like a normal video where like you just simple cuts. You got to go through, EVPs and all that stuff. So there's a lot more that goes into it, a lot more editing. Not only that, it physically takes a lot out of you. Like if you go constantly, for whatever reason, it does drain your energy. You know what I mean? More so than some other things. It's weird. I've heard people say that before. And at first I was like, oh, that's nothing. But then, it does add up, So I was like, all right, I want to take a break. So I reached out to my fan base and one of my fans was like, hey, I know a place that's kind of like near your area. It's an abandoned house, completely empty. I was like, cool, awesome. Great. I'll just do an abandoned video, just explore. This is cool. So I go, I do it. Don't really get like not really anything creepy happening. No noises, no nothing during the time I'm there. I get home, I'm editing footage. And all of a sudden I'm like, no, come on. Mm-hmm. And so I listen. And so I get this EVP of man. The first one I found was a man. And he says, literally, this is all he says, something good.
Yeah.
And just like that.
And it's just on the tape. While you're watching.
Right. And so
you didn't ask questions.
No, I wasn't asking any questions. I was just didn't acknowledge if anybody was there. Just doing my own thing. Didn't ask. Nothing. No EVP sessions. Nothing. Just explored. That's it. And so I catch that. And so then I'm going through the footage more. Get down in the basement, and there's this like workbench, kind of like old wooden workbench, down there in the basement. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, that's a cool little old workbench. And I get this graggly, deep voice that says, I see you. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, oh no. So I'm like,
that's one of those things you're happy you didn't hear it.
100%. It would have freaked me out for sure. But then I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I didn't want to do a paranormal video, and here the paranormal's like finding me. And like in my videos. And so that's what I'm saying. Like I didn't even have the intention of going there and doing that. And
do you think that's because you're someone that's like open to it?
Maybe. Dude, I've been thinking about that lately.
What do you think about like how many people film stuff all the time now? Are they just EVPs that people aren't even perceiving or thinking about?
Right. That could be definitely a possibility, especially if it's like a haunted place anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because something similar just happened to me recently. We were down in Tennessee. The video just came out last night. Elkmont, just like an abandoned, there was like a resort place. And then when the National Forest bought it out, they were like, you guys got to leave within X amount of years. So now it's just like abandoned, and they fixed the cabins up, remodeled them, which is another reason why it could be haunted, because they say that remodeling can like kick up ghosts and stuff like that.
Sure.
So we did a whole explore during the day, and we had like the word bank going on the thing. So we got a couple word banks here or there. We only did one spirit box because it said haunted and it was responding to things we said. But other than that, we just walked around, didn't ask any questions, and we caught like 10 EVPs of them. Most of them were responsive to what we were saying, or all of them were what we were saying. One of them even mocked my fiance. Like she's talking about our cats to one of the buddies that we were filming with, like, oh, here's our cats, they're crazy. And it's literally when she says that's crazy, another voice says that same thing. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But what's weird about it is like,
but it said it in a taunting kind of voice,
and how close they are together. It's almost as if they knew she was going to say that.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it's just like, it's like she says it and then it's like right behind her, like real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just weird.
Yeah.
Weird. It's like I'm saying, the paranormal, like, it's weird, you know?
When you were exploring regular abandoned places, like what's some of the craziest stuff that you come across besides like that Bible and stuff?
Yeah, like found.
Or what are some of the craziest places? Like, and if you don't want to say the location.
Oh, yeah, no. The coolest place I've ever checked out is the Neville Grand Resort in New York.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. Just like it was built like in the, I think the 40s, 50s, but it was that time period where it was like this Jewish part of like New York and where all the Jewish people go to vacation. And it was like close enough to New York City, so that way it wasn't like too far away.
Yeah.
But it was in, you know, the mountains of New York and stuff like that.
So kind of upstate.
Yeah, upstate. This like
Catskills.
Yep, Catskills area, like that whole, you know, because I don't know if you're familiar with the area, but like that whole area is like all old resorts and stuff. A lot of abandoned resorts and stuff like that. Just because the Poconos is the same kind of thing. Just because during that time period, that area was like really popular because it was so close by and inexpensive. And not only that, it was like a resort where like they had everything.
Yeah.
They had, you know, a club where you have comedians and, you know, real musicians come and show up. You know what I mean? So it was like one of those places, like kind of like an all-inclusive resort down in some tropical place. Just kind of like that. You don't have to leave. They have everything there for you, you know, that kind of place.
Yeah.
So just a sprawling, I mean, awesome place. When I visited, it was like last summer and it was like very much destroyed and stuff like that. But it was still cool because they had a lot of older stuff in there from that time period. So, and the vastness of this place is just huge.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the my favorite place I've checked out as far as like a big place that's like kind of famous.
Yeah, yeah.
And then as far as like other homes I've checked out that have found stuff cool in, I found an old like typewriter that's probably from like the 60s or 70s. I mean, it's funny because my aunt looked it up in the video and she's like, "Did you know that typewriters worth $17,000?" And I was like, "Wow!" I was like, "Wow!"
Yeah, well, this video's out, so that typewriter's definitely gone. Someone got that typewriter's on eBay right now.
Yeah. You know, like it's like, you know, stuff like that, just like old stuff.
But that brings up a question: when you're exploring these places, like, and you see that typewriter or you see that Bible, do you leave it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like the general rule of thumb of urban exploring is leave no footprints, take nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
like
most people are
pretty respectful. The only people that aren't are usually like teenagers or something.
Yeah, and they don't. And
that's typical. They usually just destroy.
Yeah,
they don't really steal necessarily.
Yeah.
They'll just go into a place and just ransack it, flip things over, you know, like just destroy it just to destroy.
Spray paint,
yeah, that kind of stuff. I will say I did find a bunch of VHS tapes in a home, like, you know, you name it, they had it there. Yeah. You know, like just classic, like Home Alone.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
This is also the start to a horror movie called VHS. I don't know if you've ever seen that
really?
movie. Yeah, it's like it's a found footage horror movie.
Yeah.
Where the police or something like bust into this guy's house, and there's this collection of VHS tapes, and that's the movie. So they stop putting them in, and it's all these weird horror stories.
Right.
It's pretty cool concept.
Yeah.
Some of them are good, some of them
are not. Yeah.
But I was like, I didn't know if you meant they were like, but they were, you know, it's like regular.
Yeah, just regular old, you know, just like a person that really loved movies and music. They had like a ton of records and all this kind of stuff.
See, that's so crazy to me. Like,
it's just left.
How does it happen where it just
and
gets up and leaves? So.
Yeah, and to make it even more interesting is,
I mean, sadly, it's probably someone passed away.
Yeah,
and then
no one ever. That's usually what happens, and it usually goes to a family member that doesn't care.
It doesn't live anywhere local.
That can
on
happen
the other side
too.
Of the country, that place is just rotting on the other side of the
country. And then it gets to a certain point where it's like, okay, well, we can't. Right. And then it's weird. It's crazy. I don't understand it either because we're talking about like people's whole lives in some of these homes.
It's crazy,
and it's super sad. You know, you just like, for example, okay, I got a little cool thing to tell you. I've never put this on footage because I just didn't know how to use it.
Yeah.
So we were in one of the homes that I've checked out and we went back and we found a tape. And so I was like, I wonder what's on this tape. And I have a tape thing in my bag. A cassette tape. And so I was like, I wonder what's on this tape. Because it's like the recorded tape, like a home one.
Yeah.
It's not like,
Yeah.
Janet Jackson or something.
No,
It's
no,
like
no.
a one that you record on. So I put it in a thing, I hit play, and it's the woman that used to live there. And it's like instructions on how to reheat the food for the husband who's getting home late at night or something like that from his job or whatever. And she's in bed.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it made me sad.
That's like a ghost. You know?
Yeah,
when you think
that's who's there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, here's like, a random tape from their old life that's just sitting in there.
Yeah.
And Lord knows, maybe these people have families that they would love to hear their voice again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it's just literally sitting there, rotting away.
That's what sucks about it, right?
Yeah, and that's the sad part about it.
Yeah.
For
See,
sure.
I would have been tempted to take that Bible to give it
Dude, me
it's
too.
Anything from the
Me too.
17 like
Me too.
Revolutionary era, like
It belongs in the museum.
it doesn't. You don't want it to rot.
I know.
Away. That one's a conundrum.
That one I would have no problem if as someone did do that and for that purpose. To actually,
Yeah,
you know
not
what I
to-
mean?
not to keep it for
I don't.
yourself,
Yeah,
but to-
because you're right. Because it is going to get lost forever.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's
So,
history.
Yeah, dude.
The only one we did, which is very on topic with this, when we were kids, me and some of my friends, we now, well, actually, so let me ask you this: a lot of these places, like, can you just go to, or is it kind of is there's a little gray line here?
Oh,
right?
it's 100% a lot. It's a lot of gray lines.
Yeah, a lot of sneak in and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Because like when we went to years ago, this is when I don't know how old we were, probably like 16, like old enough for one of us to have a license, but not
Sure.
for all of us. So 15, 16. We went into one of the old abandoned mansions in Newport.
Oh, that's so cool.
But the one Aleister Crowley used to stay at for a while.
No kidding.
And I'll tell you what, man, like what an experience of weirdness. Like, so we're in the basement. We enter through the basement, right?
It was open.
It was open, it was one of the windows was open. So imagine a room, it's a big square.
Yeah.
Now within that square, there's another square. So to get around the basement, you walked around the whole thing.
Right.
It was like 4 hallways around this other
Weird.
small square. Now, in the small square, the smaller square, there's a door and the door is probably 8 or 9 inches thick, steel.
Jeez.
You know, like the what do you call it? The hinges.
Yeah.
The hinges are like
Good. God, it's like a vault.
2 inches thick.
Yeah.
Steel. Round stock.
That's bigger than a bank vault.
Yeah, and you're like, all right, was Aleister Crowley used to stay here. What's this door going to? And it's not open. Like, and there's no way you can see where people like try to blast through it and stuff.
Sure.
And it ain't open. And you're like,
Jeez.
that was the only. We were like, what is it behind that?
Right,
And then
seriously.
and then you go upstairs and all like. There's all the usual satanic graffiti and all the stuff like you're talking about,
Yeah.
kids destroying shit,
Yep.
throwing,
Yep.
everything's destroyed. But I'm sure that house now has been renovated and is back to like this.
Yeah. That's such a
multi-million
shame about like abandoned places because like sometimes if you don't go right away, they're gone.
They're gone. Yeah.
Especially nowadays with the housing market the way that it is.
Oh, sure.
Like
Yeah,
houses,
there's very.
people are building on any stretch of land here
Yeah.
now. It's crazy.
The only abandoned places to go to right now are malls.
Yeah, I know, and I missed my opportunity to check out the other one there that they tore down. Silver City. Yeah,
Yeah, I know. I wanted to get in there, man. Just it'd be cool just to walk around. Just
I dropped the ball on that one. I just forgot that they were closing, and then before I knew it, they were like, "Oh yeah, they blew it up today." I'm like, "Oh,
yeah. I saw
Damn it.
someone posted a video of them walking through a mall.
yeah." Exploring with Josh, probably he did the
Probably.
Silver City Galleria,
Oh no.
or is it another mall?
It's another one. I think it was like in California or something.
Oh, okay.
But it was like had been closed for
A while-
substantial,
a
at
long
least like
time.
10 years. It started to like deteriorate and stuff.
Oh, yeah,
But it's-
sure.
And the stores were like very aged, like the signs that were there.
Yeah.
It wasn't all like chain stores like how everything is now.
Right,
It was still
right.
when it was like individual
Sure.
individual owned independent
Yeah.
stores and stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of weird, 80s, 90s looking things.
Sure. Yeah,
Pretty
that's
cool.
cool.
Like,
Oh,
it's a
dude,
time vault.
I love that kind of stuff. Like
Yeah.
I said, the history time vault stuff.
Yeah.
Especially 80s, 90s. That's like my wheelhouse,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It's
'cause
just
it's-
nostalgic.
it's going to
You know?
be the nostalgia for you. I'm a little older. So it was like my childhood was 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And young, 90s, I was still a kid, but,
Right.
teenager. Like,
Yeah,
but,
sure.
yeah. So same thing, man. So we got a little bit of we can kind of see how things progressed here, right?
Oh, for sure.
But how did you kind of stop focusing on doing paranormal stuff in, this area, and like what like drew you to like the Bridgewater Triangle stuff? And so tell a little bit about the stuff that you.
Sure. Yeah. Obviously, I think just like probably a lot of people around here, I'm almost to say it's like a sense of pride in a way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Especially since that documentary came out. The documentary was huge. The Bridgewater Triangle documentary,
yeah.
huge.
Because it brought this little local,
to a
legend
national audience, you know, and made me more interested in it as well. You know, because before that documentary came out, you'd hear like certain things, and I'm trying to even think if I've heard the Bridgewater Triangle before that. I'm sure I did, but it wasn't what it is now.
No, that movie
made
really
it
kind of defined it.
Oh,
more,
for sure.
you know?
And put like a focus on like what are the actual claims and what are the spots and all that stuff. Because I've used that documentary as like, when I first started, I was like baseline to find these different spots. And like, okay, you know, when I first went to the Hockomock Swamp, I rewatched it and watched all the Hockomock Swamp stuff. So that way I'd know all the claims and know, and you know,
kind of
that, right.
Little what you're potentially getting into.
Exactly. You know, so, you know, and so that's kind of like how I guess I started doing that. And then, you know, obviously as soon as you go out there and start having like experiences there, then, you know, you start being like, okay, well, this place is like this. I wonder what Profile Rock's like. I wonder what this place is like. And then it kind of snowballs from there.
Sure.
But I would say the number one place I've been is a Hockomock Swamp for sure.
Yeah.
Hockomock Swamp's probably like, I go there once a month, a month and a half or so. And I've caught some wild things in the Hockomock Swamp.
Yeah. So before we get into like stuff that you found, because obviously like stuff that you catch on tape or through you know your other means of analysis and data collection, it's one thing. But personally, like what's some of the stranger things that might have like that you experienced like in that time, like in person, like you know what I mean? Not
sure, like actually physically.
Yeah.
The last time I went to the Hockomock, I heard voices.
Yeah.
And then caught the EVPs on camera. So that's, I think, the first time.
And it was the same thing you heard in
yeah. Well, like in the moment, it was hard to understand what it was, but I know I heard something.
Yeah.
And then to catch it on camera to be like, yeah, you did hear something.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of weird. I also heard something at the Witching Tree. I heard a voice there as well. Yeah. So that, you know, like I said, when you hear the voice or something like that, that's...
Does your hair stand up?
Oh, for sure. Because then you're like, okay, like this place is like, I'm getting stuff right now. And it's letting me know it's here.
Yeah.
You know, really loud, you know, because it's being really vocal and stuff. That, and the Witching Tree's really strange. A buddy of mine,
tell people like a little background.
About the Witching Tree. Yeah, sure.
This goes out to
absolutely. So the Witching Tree is one of those urban legend kind of things where there's not a lot of information about it. I didn't even know it existed until my fiance's, one of her friends that works in that town that it's in, mentioned it to her.
Yeah.
And then she tried to find stuff on it, and like one little article about it. And so the only thing that we could find is allegedly people were lynched there, capital punishment took place there, witches were hung there, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And not only that, there's like
what time frame?
I would say just based on the graves, 1700s, 1800s at the latest.
So, is it in a graveyard or near a graveyard?
Yeah. So underneath, it's a tree, Witching Tree, and then underneath the tree, there's all these graves.
Oh, okay.
Underneath the tree, and some of the graves are like literally grown into the tree. It's really weird. There's one headstone that's literally into the tree, and I'm it's very strange. So that's kind of like the urban legend, and allegedly there's a lot more bodies than
than a marked,
correct, right, and so that's us all.
Yeah, because why would you give a witch and a
proper burial? Right. So that's kind of like the legend behind it.
And before anyone freaks out, I'm not talking about us saying that now. I'm saying back then, and you know, when they're doing that.
No, that's exactly it. Yeah, they would definitely do that for sure. And so that's kind of like the legend behind it. So honestly, it was one of those places where I wasn't expecting much.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, all right, well, this is kind of hearsay. It's not even like 100% proven that this happened.
And you haven't heard too much about it.
It's not right. It's not. It's not like Hockomock Swamp. It's not. You know, it's not like the typical things people talk about. At all. And so I was like, okay, that's weird. So like I said, I go there. I hear the voice right there in front of me, and then I go back on the tape. and we get not only that voice, I catch that voice, but we get a woman like humming or like singing, like, like whatever, singing something. And then she like speaks to me or says something to me. I didn't hear that with my own ears, just EVP afterwards. And I don't know. I still can't quite make out what it is. You could hear it clearly, but I almost think it's like Native American or Wampanoag or something. Okay. Just because I can't make out any words that she's saying, but she's talking to me and she's saying things. Yeah. And so we caught that there.
What did the voice that you actually heard, what did that say?
It was kind of like, it wasn't even like a word. It was more like a,
vocal gesture.
Yes. Yeah. Like, or like, I don't know, like something like that.
Just like, you're here. Leave us alone.
And so like I said, I was going to say about the Paranormal guy, he went there after I went there because I had so much stuff there. Yeah. He literally heard, I got an EVP or was it EVP or Spirit Box? Now I don't remember, but he definitely it told him to fuck off. So I'm like, okay, that's probably that same voice that was grunting at me and not pleased that I was there.
Leave us alone.
Yeah. And I also had something really interesting happen there that's never happened to me anywhere else. The week before that, I was in the Huckamuck and I got like unprovoked. I got prayer, please pray for me, like all in a row.
Okay.
Which is like
on what this?
On the Spirit Box. Okay. Like in a row. So I was like, that's kind of weird. And so with that in my head, I was like, I'll ask. Is anyone out here wanting me to pray for them? And so I do the Spirit Box, scan it through. And then there's like a woman that says like, yeah, sure. Then there's another guy that's like, okay, cool. Or like, okay. And then there's a woman that comes out of nowhere and basically interrupts them all. And it's like, what are you doing? He's the enemy.
Wow.
And so I hear that and I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Does she mean, I hope she means she's a Native American Wampanoag and that's why I'm the enemy? Because I'm like a white person, Englishman or whatever.
Yeah.
And
you're a pilgrim in there.
Pilgrim, right. Yeah. But then on the other side of that, I was like, oh no.
Unless it's a dark force.
That's So I didn't want to like think about that too much, but So that's what I'm saying. A place that I didn't expect to be haunted. And this is in the Bridgewater Triangle as well. Yeah. Not a lot of history behind it. And you go there and it's just like, there's some wild stuff happening there.
Well, you guys heard it. Phill busted out the new spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
broke the new Bridgewater Triangle.
Yeah,
spot.
for sure. It's I highly recommend it. And
but that just goes to show there's still plenty. Like what don't we know? It's
that's
like the
what
ocean,
saying.
right? Like how much do we really know?
Right.
How
many other undiscovered hotspots are there in the Bridgewater Triangle? No one has ever thought about investigating before, Yeah.
I want to talk because you brought up some pieces of equipment. I want to talk about equipment in a second, but I got a question. Has there ever been an investigation you've been on? And I know you say sometimes you do it, a lot of times you do it alone. Sometimes you're there with a couple other people. Yeah. Has there ever been a time where you've been somewhere and it's just something happens or whatever, and it's like, all right, pack it up, gotta get the hell out of here?
Once.
One
time.
What was that?
So that was in the Huckamuck Swamp. I was investigating a new area in the Huckamuck Swamp I've never investigated before. Yeah. It was a buddy of mine I used to work with. He lives in that area and was like, hey, I know another spot where you can access the swamp. And it's super creepy back there. That's what he had said to me. So I was like, awesome. Yeah, this is great.
Gold, right?
100%.
You know how to get there. It's super creepy.
Yep.
You got to weigh in.
Yep.
Yeah, you got the local person that's like, yeah, here's the spot.
Right. And so I'm like, perfect.
Off the beaten path.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is great. A new spot in the Huckamuck. I can see if the claims or if I'm getting certain claims that are happening in the other part of the swamp. Yeah. Compare and contrast, all that kind of stuff. So I get there and it's just basically a one trail that kind of leads into the woods. And so I'm kind of going down that trail, doing my video, probably not even like a half a mile from my car where I parked the car. Yeah. And I get this feeling I've never gotten before. And literally in my head, I hear, you shouldn't be here. Yeah. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. And I'm like, all right, well, maybe, because honestly, the first time I went to the Huckamuck, not this spot, but the other spots I've been, I was creeped out the first time. Sure. So I'm like, maybe it's just me being creeped out like I was before. I ignore it. Keep on going. Happens again. And so I'm like, I at least got to mention this on camera that I'm feeling creeped out just in case something happens. So I mention it, keep on going. And then I get to a point where I'm like, I look over to my left and I see nothing but like down trees as far as the eye could see. And I'm talking like a football field length of just down trees.
Yeah.
It looks like a tornado ripped through there.
Yeah.
And I know because I've, at the time it's winter. There's no tornadoes that's ripped through there. And
it's in the middle of the woods. It's not at the edge.
No, it's in the middle of the woods.
It's a protected area.
Right.
No one's logging it.
No,
you know what I mean?
No, not at all. It's completely protected.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's kind of weird. It just looks weird. And I was like, okay, well, I kind of stopped.
There's a lot of that in the Freetown forest too. You just see a lot of down.
Yeah.
Like in one area, you'll see a bunch of down trees
like,
and stuff.
I don't know if that's paranormal or not.
Not to that extent.
Yeah. But it's interesting though. I'd be interested to see if there's, stuff going on there like there was at this spot. So I'm like, all right, well, let me do a spirit box session. So I shut off my camera, which I never do anymore because I always leave it on because of this experience. So I shut it off. I get the spirit box out. I get it ready. I turn it on the spirit box. I'm about to hit start on the whatchamacallit. And I kind of I don't really know if I get this feeling or whatever. I just kind of looked up. And I looked up and I looked over in front of me about 40, 45 feet away over the back. You know when sometimes trees fall over? They have the back circle around the tree when they get uprooted. The
roots.
So sometimes the roots kind of come with it.
Yeah, and then the dirt cluster around
correct.
it.
That's exactly what it looks like. So over the back of one of these comes jumping over this, what looks like a black, fluffy wolf creature.
Yeah.
All fours, did not stand up on all like two legs, just looked like a wolf.
Yeah.
So, and I've seen coyotes before. I know how big coyotes are. I know how big they can get. This was bigger than any other coyote I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I've never felt that kind of fear over me in a quick instant like that. And so I just literally just grabbed my stuff and I left.
Yeah.
I didn't turn around.
Did you turn your back on the
of course I did, like an idiot, because I didn't know at the time that not to do that, but and now I know. But so I just bailed and got out of there. And but yeah, dude.
But just devil's advocate, have you ever seen a coy wolf?
No, I have not seen a coy wolf. So someone mentioned that it could be a coy wolf.
It's like it looks like literally what a coyote and a wolf mixed, but it looks like a skinny wolf but tall.
Oh,
tall,
okay.
skinny legs.
Gotcha.
Because I've seen a coy wolf on the edge of the road in Freetown.
Oh, no kidding.
Crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because it did seem, like I said, taller than a normal, than a coyote for sure, bigger.
But
fluffy.
For it to be all black.
It was all black.
That's weird, right?
For sure.
'Cause around here, they're usually multicolored, brown fawn colored.
That's what I've ever seen as far as coyotes and stuff. Dude, so it's weird, but that's a Bridgewater Triangle. That's one of the claims. Yeah. Unusual animals of different sizes, So that's what I chalk it up as. Like, I don't think it's a dog man. I mean, I was
going to say, what's up with your boy Merkel? Is it a dog man?
Yeah, he it might be. You never know. It could be. It very well could be. I can't prove that.
Sure.
But all I know is what I saw, and that thing, I've never seen anything like it before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
did it appear? Did you lock eyes? Or did it know you were there?
I don't know. Yeah. When it jumped down and jumped over, I looked at it and then I didn't want to look at it anymore.
Okay. So you just bounced. Yeah.
And we never made eye contact or it never looked up at me. It was kind of like, I think it didn't know I was there.
Yeah.
Cause I think it would have seen it, it would have made eye contact with me if it knew I was there. I don't think it did.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you didn't give it enough time. Yeah.
No.
That's probably smart. Mm-hmm. Now, do you bring any protective things with you? And
at the time I had nothing on me.
Yeah.
In the future, yes, I do have a gun and I will bring it with me and stuff like that.
Or at least some good bear mace or something. Yeah.
Right. Something just because of that experience alone.
You need a crucifix, holy water, bear mace, a gun, silver bullets, do the whole thing, right?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah. I'm just kidding. But yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Just curious. Cause sometimes you can be someplace and you can creep yourself out.
Yep.
Right.
For sure.
Or you see something like that and you just whatever, like you process it in an instant. And all right. Fight or flight.
Right. That's exactly what happened. I've never experienced that before.
Yeah.
Where like it was literally, it was just like I got to get out of here. I was, it's
nope.
weird. Yeah, it's a weird experience.
Have you gone back to that?
I went back like a week later with backup. We did not see the wolf again, but I will say in the area where that wolf coy wolf, dogman, whatever it is.
The wolf-like creature,
Yep.
yeah.
We got unbelievable EMFs over there.
Yeah.
I'm talking electromagnetic fields for those people who don't know what that is, which is very unexplainable because there's no power lines out there.
Yeah.
So we're just talking about natural EMFs somehow that are like in the ground or being caused by something there. I don't know what, but I think that's kind of interesting.
But yeah,
You know?
let's talk about equipment for a second.
Sure.
But before we get that, because I forget, because like, so we're both here. We're in Freetown. We're in the
I know.
we're in the lower right hand.
I'm just waiting for someone to knock on the back window.
Pacoy
Yeah.
We're just in the lower right hand side of the triangle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're 5 minutes from the forest, which is where I used to go when the gyms were closed during the lockdown.
Yeah, sure.
And saw plenty of weird human stuff, like nothing supernatural.
Yeah.
It was daytime, but I know it doesn't always have to be, like, you see plenty during the day.
Sure.
But for people that don't know, so Freetown, Massachusetts, Hockomock Swamp, can you give people a little bit of background? Because we know what it is.
Sure,
But I just
yeah.
realized we're talking about this.
I know, and not like defining like what these. Yeah.
One of the listeners in like Des Moines, Iowa might be,
They have
what the
no
hell are these
idea.
guys
Yeah.
talking about? Yeah.
So a lot of people think. We'll start with the Hockomock. A lot of
Yeah.
people think the Hockomock Swamp is like the heart of the Bridgewater Triangle. It was a place where the Wampanoags, Native Americans in this area, would use it to escape battles. They'd use it to bury their dead. It was literally the literal translation of Hockomock means place where spirits dwell.
Oh, yep.
And it's a huge, vast area in New England as far as swamps go. It's it's the biggest swamp in Massachusetts. So
Isn't there what is it, like, is it 14?
14. I have it written down.
14,000
I think it's 14,000 square feet. Oh, 200 square miles
Yeah.
of
That's crazy.
swamp.
Oh, and no. Freetown,
I'm sorry. That's the Bridgewater Triangle.
Freetown Forest is 14,000
14,000.
acres.
Yeah. And then Hockomock, I have it written down somewhere in here. 17,000 acres
Yeah.
is a Hockomock.
So it's even bigger than the forest.
Yeah, it's huge. It's massive. And most of it is unreachable. You know, there's a rail trail, that old rail trail that goes through the middle of it, kind of near the dog track.
Yep.
Behind the dog track. That's one of the access points there.
That's the main one.
A lot of people go. And then there's the Bay Circuit Trail, which goes where the power lines are and stuff.
Yep.
And you know, that's pretty much, and then there's one other road that's you can kind of access, minus the area that I was talking about the wolf at.
Yeah.
Yes.
You ever go off trail when you?
Yes. So one time when
Be
I
a
was
little careful. Right?
Oh my God, yeah, you do. So it was winter, and the swamp froze over, and so
you could get around.
I went.
Yeah,
I did. I was too afraid to go more than like 50 feet in because I didn't want to get lost.
Yeah,
and
sure.
God forbid if my phone stops working, I wouldn't know
And
how
there's
to
no
get.
service out there. In a
No,
lot of
dude,
time anyway.
it's
like,
yeah.
Once you get in the forest, your
It
service
could
cuts
drop
right out.
off, yeah, for sure. You know, so like I went about 45, 50 feet in, and it was near like I said, the rail trail. So if you go towards if you're behind the dog track and you go to the right and keep on going, it'll eventually bring you to like a T intersection area. And near that T intersection there on the map anyway, I don't know if it actually is an island, but there's allegedly an island out there. And it's called South Island. So I was curious.
I think that's the place I was telling you about where Joe said that the cop told him don't go over to that because there's something about an island. Look, yeah.
South Island, okay.
I don't know if that's
it's
it.
That's
sure.
it.
I'll get confirmation. I'll let you know.
Interesting. Yeah, because I just saw it on the map and I'm like, it's not that far. I could probably get there if the ice is frozen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I went about halfway and I just couldn't do it, man.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
especially I'm by myself, you know.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to like have a piece of rope and tie it to a tree and then go out there so I could follow the rope back. You know what I mean? Only to have a puckwudgie move it into another tree.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Then all of a sudden you feel that rope go limp, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So
That's Hockomock. Should I tell people like the claims of Hockomock Swamp?
Yeah, why don't we go through some of that?
Sure.
And then we can talk about it in general Bridgewater Triangle
Sure.
outside of this one. Because it's a rich area for this type of activity.
For
Because like we
sure.
said, there's UFO, alien stuff, there's cryptid stuff, all kinds of cryptid stuff.
For sure.
And then there's spiritual stuff, and then like the whole satanic panic, like cult stuff, and all kinds of weird.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's pretty much throughout all of
I'm talking the Bridgewater
Triangle,
specifically,
for sure.
But yeah, and I just wanted to bring out the history about like the Native American.
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because it has a history to that.
Yeah, and so because there's some people believe that it might be cursed as well.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like the King Philip's War stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a firm believer that they cursed the land. I mean, I could see. Like when they talked about the Freetown State Forest, they said that evil dwelt there, which I think is kind of interesting because, you know, they were here for thousands of years. And so even when they were here, before English people showed up, there was evil here.
And honestly,
you know,
and just to be devil's advocate, it's like, why would you want to curse the swamp? Who cares? No one's going there.
No one's going in there anyway.
Ooh, you scare you.
Yeah, right.
You curse
and it's
the
a
area
sacred
that
place to them. So it's like, why would you curse a sacred place to you? You probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
So I think it's just some things that people say because of the history. It's like, oh, they lost.
Or to try to explain the whole why all the weird stuff happens there.
Right. And so like, I'm not a huge believer in the curse thing. I've asked many times if, you know, and I've never got any responses that said, yeah, but this is cursed or anything like that at all.
Yeah. But it also could have been a ploy back in the day to keep people out of there.
Yeah, that's true.
That's cursed. You don't want to go back there. So they know they could go hide back there and people weren't, you know,
for sure.
People wouldn't follow them in.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting about the Huckamuck, I think is interesting, is I'd never made this, I just never connected this in my head. So I heard this podcast and they were talking about this other swamp in Louisiana. And wouldn't you know, they were talking about the claims. Every single claim was the same thing in the Huckamuck swamp.
Huh.
And I'm like, here's two different swamps, thousands of miles, two different ecosystems.
Yeah, two different geographical regions.
Right, and it's like the same claims.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's kind of weird.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, okay, so maybe there's some sort of connection between swamps.
Yeah.
And just generally maybe there are areas where, I don't know, there seems to be a lot of activity for this kind of stuff.
Sure. And even if you took like the spiritual paranormal stuff out of it, what better place for weird life to exist?
Sure.
Or unexplained.
Or to hide.
Because you know, there's not a lot of people out there. There's not a lot of people venturing around. It's hard terrain to traverse. Like there's no reason to go out there. It's not like you're going to go like fishing out there. Well, some places obviously, but like you're not going to, you know, swamps are like, it's kind of a gross place.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Hardly anyone's out there.
Yeah. It's like everything's like decaying. And,
yeah.
You know, it's
right.
like just not like.
Oh, and in midsummer, you ever been to swamp midsummer? There's insects everywhere.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, it's awful. It's not a place you want to go unless you're like into wildlife. You know?
Sure, exactly. Yeah. And which would make sense, like why regular wildlife's there, and then why maybe the cryptid stuff or whatever, you know, that stuff.
Yeah, because it's a huge area, you know. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Do you know the name of the swamp in Louisiana?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
To follow up on that
for sure,
and look and see if anyone's made connections about that stuff.
Yeah, I never made the connection until I heard them talk about the claims and stuff and all that, and I was like, that's really weird. You know what I mean? I thought it was strange for sure.
So there's a TV show idea right there, like swamp investigation.
Yeah.
Go look at everything. Because I'm sure if it's Louisiana and Mass, I'm sure there's plenty of other places where around the country. Where
now I want to check out like all the swamps. It's like, is it all it's very similar to, you know, it makes you wonder.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, then of course, if you want to get into like the Freetown State Forest is its own, and it's right in your backyard. Yeah. We're literally here.
Yeah, we're literally, we're in a deforested part of it.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think, you know, we could talk about Hockomock specifically and then the general Freetown stuff or the Bridgewater Triangle stuff. Like, I know some of the listeners, like when we put out, like, what do you want to hear about? Like, definitely Puckwudgies came up multiple times, and I'm sure that that's to both Freetown and the Bridgewater Triangle in general.
All over.
I guess instead of, maybe we talk about the things in general that are experienced in the triangle, and then maybe go if there's some things just in Hockomock or whatever.
Right.
Like, you know, we could address that.
Yeah, sure. So like Freetown, man, like we were talking before the show, it's like a whole other animal.
Yeah.
And there definitely seems to be more of a darker side here in Freetown State Forest than the Hockomock for sure. I mean, we're just talking about like, so for those people listening out there that have never heard about Freetown State Forest, there's the satanic cult stuff in the 70s, murders. People have been murdered here.
Decapitated and tied to trees.
Literally decapitated, tied to a tree.
Yeah.
You know, you got this pedo den thing.
Yeah, I don't even like talking about it.
I don't like talking about it either, but I just mention it because it's evil. You got to mention it because there's a lot of weird stuff, you know.
So what he's talking about, they found this like dwelling kind of built into a hill. Mm-hmm. It looked like a hobbit house.
Yeah, literally.
When you look, and then when they went inside, there was like a little chair for a kid.
Yeah.
There's like pentagrams and stuff on the
kids'
wall.
Kids'
clothing, like creepy stuff. Like it's torn down. I believe.
They tore it down.
And they also had there was like a cabin
Yep.
a cabin out there that was similar type
Yep.
stuff. Just gross. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
So you
gross.
got that stuff, which is just awful.
Yeah.
Then you have, cattle
It's not even fun
mutilations.
to investigate that, yeah.
No, that's, yeah. So
Leave
that,
that one to the authorities.
yeah, exactly. But just goes to show you the darker side here.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's unlike any of the other places in the Bridgewater Triangle for sure.
Yeah.
Just based on, I've only been to the Freetown State Forest to do investigations like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And the last time I went on the spirit box, I got called a bitch. When I asked what their name was, they said, "Why do you care?" They said, "I'm going to get you."
Got the hood rat spirits. You got the hood rats.
Like,
What's up, bitch? Why are you here?
yeah, just like not good.
Not pleasant. Yeah,
not at all.
not saying good things. So what was it? What was it? The first thing there that you talked about? Someone said good things. Or
Oh yeah, something good.
something good. Yeah.
It was not something good at all,
Something good, yeah.
dude. So like, just to go to show you, how it seems to be different there. So obviously, then you got UFO claims there and a bunch of other puckwudgies allegedly there. But I do think there's something darker in the Freetown State Forest that's drawing. We were talking about this before the show. That's drawing these things there.
Sure.
Because, like I said, there's people that go in there just to do bad things.
Yeah.
When they put the barbed wire across the bike trail, hoping that somebody would ride through and get caught on the barbed wire or something. The wild dogs that were running around in there. Things that just don't happen in real life. You're like, what do you mean a pack of wild dogs? What are you talking about?
It's like all the things, like the weird things that you'd see on what was like an old horror movie, like the Omen or something.
Oh,
like,
yes.
like weird,
Sure, yeah,
wild
right.
dogs attacking.
It's ridiculous.
Crazy,
It's absurd. But and all that stuff's there. So that's kind of like the I would say the majority of the claims in the Freetown State Forest. I'm trying to think if I left anything out.
In the Freetown Forest, I think there was the Thunderbird.
Thunderbird, that's right, and that's Hockomock Swamp as well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that
kind of correlate
in the
multiple
triangle,
locations.
Puckwudgie.
Abington is another spot where they saw that bird too.
Yeah.
The cop, that's where the cop saw the bird and he reported it and stuff like that. So
Thunderbird is like a pterodactyl size.
Yeah, pterodactyl-like
bird.
creature. Yeah, like bird.
Yeah, it's just for people.
For them who doesn't know what a Thunderbird is,
And then Sasquatch, Bigfoot
course.
stuff.
Yep.
You don't hear too much about that anymore.
No, I felt like there was a peak for that, and then it's kind of quieted down as far as the Bigfoot. I don't know what to make of that.
Fell out of favor. No, I'm just,
I don't know, or just I don't know.
knocked down all those trees in Hockomock and bounced.
I've had some experiences with things knocking down trees.
Yeah. Have you heard any like tree knocks or anything?
100%.
Yeah.
Hockomock Swamp. Yeah. I had, if you want me to tell this experience, I had a 25-minute experience where it started with a tree, something hitting a tree and a tree falling in the swamp. And that's kind of like what kicked it off.
Yeah.
And then when I go back and listen to the the audio of it, I catch an EVP at the same time as the tree gets hit. And it sounds like, what I'm interpreting that as somebody hitting a tree, like physically, with an axe or something. Exerting energy to hit something. And that's exactly what it sounded like. And then boom, this tree falls. So I hear it. I'm like, that's really weird. So I get closer to kind of like investigate what's going on there. I start hearing glass moving, metal moving. I eventually, and like bangs, like huge bangs on trees and stuff. And then I eventually hear, I'll just do the sound for you because I know what it sounds like. Beep boop, bang, beep boop, bang. Just like a huge bang. And we're talking.
So R2D2 was taking trees down?
It sounds kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like it sounds something like that. It's really weird.
Yeah.
And so we're talking like in the swamp.
Yeah.
50, 60 feet in the swamp, sometimes closer, sometimes 30 feet.
Not where there would be an excavator backing up. Because sometimes that sounds like a...
Sure.
Like
it's like, no.
Equipment backing up.
Right.
And it's like beep, beep.
Yeah.
It's not that.
It's not that. And we're talking in the swamp.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's deep enough where nothing's
No one's in there. I know no one's in there. No one's even in the parking lot there's no one around anywhere. And so it's like a 25-minute experience. And so I went back a couple weeks ago and I caught it again in the same spot, the same noise.
You have the recording?
Yep. Yeah. The same noise, the beeping, and then the bang. This time it was more of like a 30-second experience, and then it was gone. And then what's really creeps me out, well, it's second thing that creeps me out. There's something that creeps me out even more. On the word bank, when that experience was happening, I got entity, come see.
So it's asking, wanted you to go over
It
there.
wanted me to go in and see it, you know?
Yeah.
And that just creeped me out big time. And not only that, someone commented on the video, was like, hey, bring up the UFO thing. They're like, I've done some UFO research, and a lot of people have been abducted, said they heard a noise like that before they were abducted. And so I'm like, oh,
There you go.
cool.
So which begs
Yeah,
the question.
it's weird, right?
The next time you're there and you hear that, you're going to go check it out?
Hey, if it's for content, you know?
That might be the one that pushes you over there.
Oh, for
dude.
sure. Like, pushing me
Just
somewhere.
leave the camera rolling.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it makes me wonder what that is.
Yeah.
It makes me want to check it out for sure. You know, but it felt like it was trying to lure me in there.
So when you say you've heard things like moving metal and moving glass, like
Yeah.
like scraping, like
The glass sounded like bottles or
like if you were dragging a bottle,
yeah, or like you roll a bottle around
yeah,
or something,
roll-
like
yeah,
that kind of sound. But it's like standing water, so I'm like, okay, well,
why would you hear that?
how would I hear that? You know, it's
Yeah.
very, very odd. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the metal. It was like, yeah, I've heard a couple different metal noises, but one version is like metal crinkling. Kind of the best way I can describe it is like aluminum. You know, if you were to crink aluminum up or something like that, kind of sounds very, not exactly like that, but similar to that. And then some other like metal knocks and bangs and stuff like that.
But isn't haven't people said that also like can be tied to like portal type activity?
Yeah, and
like
so that's one of the
those sounds like
theories.
that crackling.
Yes, and so there's a guy, I can't remember his name, but somewhere in Kentucky where I heard him talk about the same kind of thing, and he heard metal crinkling and stuff.
Yeah.
And then he also heard two rocks hit each other together, and I've heard two rocks hit each other out in the Huckamuck as well.
Yeah.
You know, just
you
like
think that literally could be energy moving around and
It could
it's
be.
literally just rocks hitting each other.
It could be.
Getting picked up.
It could be. Or it could be, you know, Puckwudgie or something hitting them together. I don't know. But that's exactly what it sounds like. It sounds like boom, boom.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing.
Sure.
You know, I've gotten metal knocks out there when asking for a response. And so I guess that's pretty much the metal noises experiences I've had there.
Yeah.
I will tell you something cool that happened to me last time I was in the Huckamuck. It was just kind of like a throwaway thing I just said just to be funny. And I'm going down the trail and I'm like, hello, Puckwudgies, how are you, my friends? Or where are you, my friends?
Yeah.
And I get an EVP that says, here.
So let's explain what a
Puckwudgie is.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
It's like a little trickster.
Troll-like creature, yeah.
But with
It's
like a trickster type tendency.
type mentality or
Yeah.
like can play tricks on you, can apparently lead you to your death or lead you to your doom, but also help you as well.
Yeah.
There's kind of like that weird, and I was kind of
Depends
having
on
this,
what day you catch them.
right, and it also depends on what Native American culture you're talking about, because
Yeah.
there's different versions of them too, where there's like two different kinds,
Yeah.
and they have different names. But around here, they call them Puckwudgies. Like
Yeah.
I said, like you said, a troll-like creature, completely covered in hair, small, can disappear and reappear at will. So it seems like it has some sort of, I don't know if it's a cloaking ability or whatever the case may be. Not only that,
Or the portal thing where it just goes-
right. They're disappearing or going away and coming
this
back.
This is all conjecture, you know.
Oh, of course.
But
It's completely speculative. It's what, some theories that are going around about Puckwudgies that
But when you say like a place like Freetown is like a little darker element to it, like that also can factor into like a whole portal type of experience. Like
Sure.
What kind of portals there? Where's it going? What's coming through?
Right.
What's going back and forth?
Right. Maybe the portal in the Freetown State Forest has more darker things coming through.
Sure, yeah.
And the Huckamuck's more, lighter stuff, or they're like, I was having a discussion with a couple of buddies last night, and like I said, we don't know. There could be good Puckwudgies, there could be bad ones too.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe there are good and bad ones. Who knows?
Yeah.
So maybe
Because there are
that's why.
stories of them like helping.
Yeah.
like
Yep.
in situations.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
yep, absolutely.
Especially like kids or something. Yeah,
Yep,
like,
yep, and so they're definitely interesting for sure. And like I said, I'm pretty sure.
funny on the documentary, that one guy that said he just saw one under the street light hanging
Yes,
out. like
creepy.
not even in the woods.
Creepy,
just like,
yeah.
Just hanging out like going, come here.
You know what's wild about that? In my 80s, my uncle saw a pukwudgie before he knew what a pukwudgie was.
Oh yeah?
Yeah,
Would you say in the 80s?
80s, yep, early 80s. And,
What-
and
what
this
did
was
he
in,
say?
So this is in, it's kind of weird because it was in Onset, Massachusetts.
Yep.
So, I don't know if you know where Onset is.
I
It's
know
not that
Onset,
far
yeah.
away
No,
from
it's
here.
not that far.
So they lived in this haunted house and they had all this activity happening and, furniture moving in the middle of the night, all that kind of stuff. And so he saw it twice. The first time he saw it, he was driving on the way home, really close to the house. All of a sudden, this pukwudgie appears in front of him, in front of the car.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my God, I'm going to hit this thing.
Yeah.
And so he slams on his brakes, stops. He's like, I thought I was going to hit it. I was going to drive through it. And he drives through it and nothing, it disappears. It's gone. And he just never sees it. So then the second experience he has, they're about to move out. And like I said, this is a haunted house. They had a lot of stuff happen there.
Is that why they were leaving the
Yes.
house? 'Cause
Yes.
2
It was
months?
less than, they only lived there a year.
Yeah.
The first night they moved in, I'll tell you this quick story because it kind of gives you an idea what like kind of the crazy paranormal activity.
level, yeah.
So first night in the home, they haven't even set anything up. They just got their bed set up. It's my mom who's not even married yet, living with her brother, my uncle, and his wife, and they have their newborn baby, my cousin, and that's it. And so they have the bed set up. They go to bed, and they haven't even set up the crib yet for the kid, for her. And so they just pulled out one of the drawers and put blankets down and put her into
The old school
way.
crib.
Yeah, of course. So that's what they do. And so they go to bed, and everyone's about to fall asleep. And then, according to my uncle, he hears like footsteps coming up the stairs. They're on the second floor. So he hears footsteps, and where his door is to his room, he can see if someone's coming up the stairs. So he's like, oh, it must be my sister. I didn't hear her go to the bathroom, but maybe she went to the bathroom. And so she's thinking the same thing about him. It's like, oh, he must have went downstairs to go to the bathroom. And so they hear the footsteps go all the way up, boom, 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 boom. They stop at the top of the stairs. Then all of a sudden, in front of where my cousin is on the ground, there's a huge oak bookcase, and it goes to fall over. Like it was pushed over onto her.
Whoa.
And so my uncle gets up, catches it, and as soon as he catches it, he hears doom, 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 footsteps going back down the stairs.
Wow.
Yeah. Night one.
Yeah, night one.
Night one. So you can imagine.
That'd be night one and done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing, because you hear a lot about hauntings and things, but you never hear like someone trying to smash a kid with a bookcase.
That's evil. That's evil.
That's like,
Yeah. So fast forward to the last night that they're there, they got a lot of stuff moved out, almost everything moved out, and they had one of those, the attics where you push the thing and you move it out of the way.
Yeah.
It's not one that has the stairs. It's one of those.
Yeah.
And so out of the attic.
Yeah, my father has that. You gotta push it out of the way, then put a ladder up.
Yes, that's one of those kind. And so out of the attic jumps down said pukwudgie, and it's got his back turned towards my uncle, and of course my uncle's like, you got to be like shocked.
Yeah,
and so it turns around and it looks shocked that he's there.
Yeah.
And disappears in front of his face.
It's crazy, yeah.
Dude, yeah. Wild. And like,
What do you say it looked like?
he's completely covered in hair, short, like 2 to 4 foot, like probably like the typical pukwudgie think, like, but he said completely covered in hair, like a troll creature or something or whatever. And at the time, he didn't know what a pukwudgie was,
Do they think that's what pushed the bookcase over?
They thought it might have been,
Yeah.
They are obviously in the house, which is.
So did he ever go up in the attic for anything? Or
I'm
was
trying
it
to
just-
think. He never mentioned it to me. I'd have to ask him if
'cause
he
I
actually
wondered
did.
if that's where the thing lived. And
Right.
It was just like, yeah.
And it would, because they said they had furniture moving in the middle of the night and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so my dad was dating my mom at the time, and my dad's like, well, maybe just leave the furniture where they want it.
Yeah.
And so they did, and it never moved again.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's just that house is wild, man.
Yeah.
That's a wild, wild, wild place.
It's
Yeah.
weird how there's some houses like that, like where it's just bananas, and then there's, think how many places there's just nothing,
Yeah,
It's
right,
just like,
right.
why-
And
why-
thank God, like our homes aren't haunted.
Yeah. But it's like, why in this one place? Like, what?
Right. What triggered this?
What's there? Yeah.
Right.
What is it? Is it a pukwudgie that's disappearing, but look like just messing with you, moving stuff around, just to
Right.
be a little jerk off? You know what I mean? Like, or is it like, like you said, spirit? Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's the thing about the paranormal. You just never really know.
so speaking of that, like, getting into like the science of it, or like the
Methodology? Is that what
methodology.
yeah.
I'm trying to say methodology. The methodology behind it. I know there's all kinds of equipment.
Sure.
And I think it's interesting, like, because we've already referenced a bunch like spirit box. Like, for
yep.
people that don't know, like, I know what a spirit. I don't know what everything is, but I know what a spirit box
Right.
is. Like, you know, for people who don't know, like, what is some of the equipment that you use routinely, and then like, how did you know to like get that equipment? Like, because there's a ton out there, and now,
for sure.
you know, for lack of paranormal investigations, like ghost hunting is kind of at a level now where it's like there's an industry behind it. So how do you know what's good stuff and what's just like garbage to try and make a quick buck and stuff like?
So I use an app on my phone that has a bunch of different things on it. I actually recommend it highly. I'll shoot you the link so you can put it in the description. So people
I'll put it in the show notes.
So people can check it out.
What's the name of it?
I think it's called M3 Science Paranormal Toolkit.
Okay.
Something like that, to that effect.
Is that the one where you put it down and it just says words randomly?
Yeah. So I use...
So that one's weird because, like, that one you just completely understand.
Yeah.
The EVP is open to a little bit of interpretation, or the spirit box even.
Yeah,
like
right.
Some of it's clear, some of it's like,
it's hard to hear.
And I don't
sometimes.
know if, you know, my hearing's kind of dull anyway, so I'm like, I didn't hear what they're saying, you know what I mean? So there's a little bit of interpretation.
Sure.
There.
Yeah.
But when that thing talks, like, there's no...
Yeah, it's very clear. Like the app that I use, like I said, the M3 Science Toolkit, I like it a lot. Like I use the word bank feature a lot. I'll just have...
That's the one where...
and so it has, allegedly it has a list of words in there, and a spirit can just pick and choose whatever words it wants to say. And like everyone else, I was very skeptical when I first started like using it, because you're like, is this, you know, can they really use this? But what I find most interesting is I've gotten literally words on here, and then I've gotten EVPs with the same word directly after it. Or I've gotten like a word on here, and then I open up the spirit box and get that same word. So it's like two different things saying the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of brings more like validity to it. So it's like, okay, they actually can use this to say things. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And sometimes maybe I feel like sometimes it doesn't always come out the way they want to. You know what I mean? Because they're trying to like manipulate it. And so I've had occasions where really weirdly, it's like said words, and then I go back through, and it's not on there.
Oh, or does it save the?
Yeah,
words?
it'll save it in a list. You know what I mean? So you can like go through and see like, oh, at this time it said this word.
Yeah.
Or I've had an occasion where it says a word, and I go to look back through, and it doesn't sound like that word that it says it was.
Yeah.
Which I think is weird too, because it's just a lot of weird things about it. But
and that's the word bank feature.
That's the word bank feature on here that I use that a lot. I basically have that running on all my videos all the time.
Yep.
And then I record audio with that as well. So they have like a secondary audio recording.
Yep. And then the EVPs, for people that know, that's what electronic
voice phenomenon. Yep. That just means a voice that you did not hear with your own ears at the time, but then you go back and listen, and then there's a voice there that says whatever, Now,
where are you picking up EVPs? On your film, like where you're filming, or do you pick it up on?
I've picked it up on both. So I film with my phone, and like I said, I have this going with audio all the time.
Yep.
So I've caught EVPs on both.
Yep.
I've caught EVPs specifically on one or the other.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird how that works. I don't know how that works. I think sometimes it depends where the spirit is.
Yep.
If the spirit's closer to this, like, one device than the other, it might pick up more on one or the other. Or sometimes they just pick up on one or the other, and,
Have you ever had the same
e
EVP get picked up on both devices?
Yeah.
All right, that's crazy.
Yeah, oh yeah, like that's, because it's like, especially if they're like close together, then that can definitely happen for sure.
Yeah.
So I use that. I also use the spirit box. So a spirit box is just a radio device that has a feature where it can scan through the channels really fast. And so with mine, you could set it to like 4 different settings, I think, like that. And you can do AM, you can do FM, whatever you prefer. I usually use FM personally. That's just me. And I use it at the fastest speed possible. So that way there's less chance of picking up an actual radio station that's saying something.
Yeah.
So it's more of like ghost manipulate, because theoretically how it works is ghosts can manipulate the radio stations as you're going through it, and say words through it.
Yeah,
which
like
I definitely
pick up words.
Right, which I definitely
Which
think
is like in the movie. I forgot what movie it is, but there's movies where like the spirit's talking to you, like someone's driving the car, and then the radio station starts turning really fast, and it picks up words to put a sentence together.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think the spirit box that I use works great. You know, I highly recommend it. The one I use, it's S box, I think. Yep. GoShop.com is where I got mine. They make that one specifically. There's another brand that's out there if people are looking for like spirit boxes. I'm trying to SB7. I believe that's probably one of the more popular ones. I think that's what it's called, SB7.
Do you have it here?
No, I don't. I don't.
I say we were to mess around and put one on.
Yeah, right. I do have my word bank.
See if the shop's haunted.
Yeah, right. I was gonna ask you about that because you are in Freetown. Is you have anything weird happen to you late at night while you're here at all?
No. So literally, the only definite paranormal experience I've had here in Freetown was coming home from Boston. I think I was in Boston, somewhere. It was about 3 a.m. And I was going through an old part of Freetown, Chase Road. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know that, like where all the old farms are.
Yeah.
There's an old graveyard there too.
Okay.
And I was coming down that road, and literally I had 2 orbs of light shoot across the front of the car, dance around in front of my windshield, and then shoot off to they came from the left going to the right. Mm-hmm. And so they came in front and then like danced around in front of it and then shut. I like jacked on the brakes, and then I was like, all right, was it just weird light tricks or something? But it was like literally balls.
No.
They were swirling around. I was like, all right, I know what I just saw, but I got to do diligence. I backed up,
tried
came
it again.
forward.
Of course,
I shined the light off. If anyone was on the road, I would have got hit because it was 3 a.m. Yeah. There's no one. It's like the woods. You know what I mean?
There's no one.
There's no one out. And so, I tried everything to make any like light reflections, right? And there's just nothing there.
Yeah, that's.
And I was like, all right.
All right.
I was like, cool, at least something happened. You know what I mean?
You have a story now.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm usually like, nothing happens.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. And you're live, so that's cool. It wasn't dangerous or anything.
Yeah, it was just crazy, So it was crazy, but that's like literally the only thing I've personally experienced.
Right.
In the woods, I've come across weird stuff, but it's like human stuff, like people doing weird, writing weird stuff, or in the woods, like in the middle, like hiking, like a couple miles into a hike, and there's like a tree lopped over, and someone like spray paints like "help me" on it, and it's like, what's this?
You're like,
it's probably nothing, but it's like when you're out there and the
history and stuff, and
like,
you got that in your mind.
So
you're
like you go to the dark place, and really like, what happened here? You know, what I mean?
Yeah,
just
dude.
weird shit like that.
Of course,
but nothing.
Interesting.
Nothing. But I don't. When I'm out there, I'm not actively investigating or seeking it. I was going out because the gym was closed, and what I mean, or just going out,
no doubt.
Around. But I mean, I'm not close to it, you know what I mean? But I don't go seeking.
Yeah.
So
it's probably for the best.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm down. Just bring some weird shit on. I'm down.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to call you like in a week from now. I'm like, I should have never said that.
Yeah. Why did you have me say that?
Yeah. But and what was the other thing that was it EMP? EMFs,
electromagnetic fields or whatever. Yeah. So just like high concentrations of electricity in the air. I have a little device that measures that as well. I have 2 different kinds that measure that.
Yeah.
And that's just like one of those things that people think that ghosts can use energy, like electricity and, moving water and stuff like that to kind of like manifest themselves. That's what the theory is.
Yeah.
And so theoretically, if there's an area where there's high EMFs, maybe there's, ghost activity there, spirit activity there that's using that energy to like manipulate things. And I've found that I feel like that is the case because there's been a couple occasions in the Huckamuck where I'll get like an EMF spike on the phone or something, like interference, and it's definitely like a high EMF spike, and it'll usually sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes be accompanied right after an EVP or a word bank response or like, you know what I mean? Something's going on, like it's a measurable energy that's happening. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's kind of like the theory behind that.
Do you ever notice like a drop in temperature with a spike, like like that's like the thing because it's drawing energy out, like so a lot of people say when there's paranormal stuff happening it gets cold or whatever.
I've had cold spots for sure in the Huckamuck, no doubt. There's been a couple spots.
But when you're in that spot, do you notice anything on any of the instruments? That you're using?
Not that I've ever checked in the moment to be like, oh,
that'd be an interesting cold
for sure.
occurrence, yeah.
Next time I go out and I do feel a cold spot, that's what I'll do, just to see if you're right, to see if there is anything like measurable as far as besides temperature, like because you can feel if it's colder. You're like, oh wow, it's cold here in this little spot. That's kind of weird. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Bust out the EMF, see if there's a high EMF field there, or you know what I mean. So. For sure.
What's one of the craziest spots that you've been where you've gotten like the most data that like through your devices? Like, because I know I watched that one where you were at the tree that
the witching tree or the Dighton council tree.
The council tree where the tribe used to meet up.
Oh, for sure.
Right, during allegedly King Philip.
Yeah, King Philip's War and stuff. Yeah.
But I saw that one and that the
REM pod.
The REM pod thing was going bananas and you were like, is it the wind? Is it what's going on?
Yeah. So,
but then it was like chaos for a little while because the spirit box is going off, that thing's going off, saying things, and like
dude.
that other thing's beeping like
crazy,
like a crazy robot.
Like I said, and I've never had that happen ever since. Like I go off like that, and you're right. I tried to.
You interfered with a spirit meeting. They were coming back to do a meeting, and you were in the middle. You were up in the middle,
and they did not want me there. Yeah. There's no doubt about that.
Did they? Yeah. So they were. The stuff that was coming through. Because I remember at the end, you're like, you want me to go? And it's like, yeah, go.
Leave. Yeah, go. Yeah, it literally says go. Go. Yeah, like, yeah. So I think by the end of it, they were like, all right, well, like, you're annoying us now. Yeah, but yeah, it said my name twice.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's crazy, right?
Yeah. Which is it's definitely creepy. I think it's one of those things they try to say sometimes. I think ghosts or spirits try to like freak you out now and again because it's one of those things where I'm trying to remember if I even said my name there.
Sure.
And I don't even think I did.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like some unseen force that somehow.
Oh, maybe in the intro, do you say, hey, this is it?
Possibly, but I'm trying to think. I think I might have recorded it in the car, but you never know. They could have heard me in the car. Yeah. You know. So.
I always wondered too, because it's like, how many spirits are like, you know, obviously there's malevolent and benevolent spirits.
Sure.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then how many are just jackasses just messing around trying to freak you out?
Oh, for sure.
That's what I would do. You know, if I was hanging around, I'd be like, I'm going to fuck with you.
just you and the puck wedgies.
Yeah. I'm like, what's up?
Messing with people. Yeah. Playing tricks on everybody. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, you're right. There's, you'd imagine just because when you're living, there's all sorts of personalities and, you know, there's people that are generally nice. There's people that like to laugh, you know, so like there's a large selection of people. So if you are a spirit or ghost that's still around, hanging around, then you probably would be like you were. Energy, you would be like you were when you were alive, I'd imagine. You know what I mean? So if you're an irritable person, you're probably going to be an irritable person as a ghost. Now, you know, so.
You have a lot of experience in investigating this stuff. Just out of curiosity, what's your gut instinct on what a spirit is? Do you think it's something that's residual energy or do you think it's something that's active? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. I think there's certain points
or is
where
it both? Like depends.
I think it's both. I think I think the larger percentages there actually are ghosts. Yeah. And I think there's a smaller percentage where it's like imprints of the past. Yeah. Kind of thing.
Sure.
One of those one of those instances was when I went to
like, do you think that's what it was when you were a kid and you heard the glass and like people talking, like it was like a party or something?
Right. I probably, because it wasn't one of those things where they were talking to me. Yeah. You know, they were just kind of talking and doing their own thing. So yeah, that would probably be a prime example of something residual. Or perfect example, when I went to that tree, the council tree, and I heard and I got the Native American drums drumming.
Yeah.
I don't think there's Native Americans there drumming still. I think that's something that was from the past. That's like an echo of the past that somehow comes through. Because I've heard people say, "Oh, like time's not linear. It's just we just perceive it that way."
Sure.
So that would kind of fall into that kind of thing where it's like it's just an echo of the past of what what they were doing back there, and they were playing drums and doing their things that they would normally do. So I think there's an element of that to it, but then I also think clearly there's spirits out there that are communicating and 100% talking to you and stuff like that, because they are responding to questions I'm asking or commenting on things I'm doing. They're reacting, things, you know what I mean? So that's not residual because they're sentient and they're saying things.
Yeah.
So whether I can't prove or not that they're people or not, I mean, who knows what they are?
Sure.
But whatever they are.
But that's the fun of all this, right?
Absolutely.
Like, could just be some jerk in another dimension just popping through.
Absolutely.
Like they get the technology to come through. Like, all right, let's mess with this guy. Boop, boop, boop. You know, like say something on the speaker. You know, whatever.
Right.
You know that's
for
the
sure.
fun of it. You know, like
it's
like we were saying earlier. Anyone that says they 100% know what something is you're probably lying.
Yeah.
Or you've convinced yourself that it's that, but like, how do you know this?
Yeah, well, especially you can't say with 100% proof and 100% certainty that like X, Y, Z, like there's just, you're not going to have, never going to have enough proof to say that unless you literally have a Pukwudgie by the back of the hair, like holding him.
Got
and
him
he's
in
there.
a cage. Yeah.
Yeah, but
that it would just teleport out of him or whatever.
100%. Yeah, exactly. So like that's not going to happen. So,
unless you had the Ghostbuster box where they would
just trap him in the
thing. Yeah. But yeah, that's what makes all this fun to me and interesting.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
Like, what is it? There is a lot of unexplained stuff in the world, and it's good to stay open, but not be so open that you just believe everything. You got to be open with a healthy amount of skepticism
for sure,
and not to be like a downer, but like just so you don't get wrapped up in craziness.
No, it's true. Or be one of those people that are just like, oh, everything's paranormal. Yeah. Because if you go out there, like what I try to do in my videos, if something, like for example, I had this experience where my spirit box turned on by itself inside my bag.
Yeah.
And in Abington. And I went home and I put everything in my bag back exactly where it was. I picked up my bag, I put it down.
Move it around, do all this stuff.
Everything I could possibly do to make this thing go off again. Couldn't get it to happen. Now, I can't prove 100% that something turned on my spirit box in my bag, but it did turn on in my bag and I couldn't replicate it.
Yeah.
So it's like, that to me is paranormal. I can't explain it.
Yeah.
I couldn't make it happen again. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's what you have to do though. But if I would have just went out there and not done that other stuff and just been like, oh, it turned on by itself and not try to debunk it.
At least try, yeah.
You gotta try.
Yeah. And when it came on, did it say anything?
So I had the volume all the way down.
So
it
you
didn't,
don't know what it said.
Yeah, it didn't say anything.
It was on, but
nothing came through because I would have, but it rattled me for sure.
Sure, yeah.
Because what makes it even weirder is right before that on the word bank, I talk out loud and I'm like, you guys want to do a spirit box? And it's like, yeah. And then
the thing was on. All right. So yeah. So it is it's a crazy coincidence, even if it was just
right, 100%. Yeah. But the very fact I got that before kind of like led more credibility to be like, okay, well maybe something did happen, and I mean, so like I said, I chalk it up as paranormal. I don't know what happened, but it turned on, and that's all I know. Yeah. It's weird.
And so just out of curiosity, and if this is something you don't want to get into, you don't have to, but like, given all this research you do, has that affect like what was your, I guess like, spiritual or religious background going into this?
Sure.
Like, and did it change anything? Like all your research in this, has it changed your perspective that way at all?
Sure. I grew up Christian and stuff like that. Very strict home and stuff like that. Like I wasn't allowed to go trick or treating. I wasn't allowed to like listen to a lot of music. I grew up.
So this is your punk rock rebellion right now.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I couldn't do this, so now I'm investigating and putting this out on YouTube.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and so you're right, because back in those days, especially in like Christian circles, like. Back in those days, everything's a demon. You shouldn't, like
shouldn't mess with anything.
Right. You just
inviting Satan into your heart and all that stuff.
And like nowadays people don't really think like that anymore. And, and ghost hunting is more acceptable.
A little more nuanced. Yeah.
Right. And so like it's not like how it used to be. But I will say, since I've been doing the channel, I have like started getting more religious actually than I was when I first started, which I think is interesting. You know what I mean? So it definitely has had an effect as far as me getting like back into like the faith that I grew up with.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? And so, I mean, I think the two are coexisting fine.
But why do you think that is? Is it just because you're seeing more proof that something else exists outside
that's
of the
exactly
regular realm?
Right.
I'm not trying to put words in your
mouth. That's exactly it. It's because I've had personal experiences in my life previously, when I was growing up, to kind of reinforce the fact that there is good and evil in this world.
Yeah.
And there's two different sides, clearly two different, there's evil and so when I'm going out and doing the paranormal investigations and stuff, like when I got the prey stuff, that was out of the blue. I didn't ask about that. The ghosts literally, or spirits or whatever they are, said that to me. And now I've noticed recently they've been saying like, help me a lot more.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to make of that, and it's just like they've never said it before.
Be interesting to ask how or why. Like,
yeah.
How can I help you, or why?
I did.
Why do I need to help
I did.
you?
So the last time I asked, what do you think they said? Food.
Weird.
Weird. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is this ghosts? Are you puckwudgies? Like,
Yeah.
like, why would a ghost need food?
Yeah.
Do they not know they're dead? Do you know what I mean? And you know what I'm saying? It's very odd.
Yeah.
Very, very odd. But yeah, so.
Or it's the ghost of someone who died of starvation out there or
Right,
something. You know,
right.
I'm just.
Yeah,
speculating.
no,
Which is what's fun to do, right?
Right. And that could be, you know.
Especially in the swamp, like
Sure.
someone in the 1700s, like who knows, like things were
King Philip's wartime period. Who knows?
yeah.
Like, you know, they got
People-
trapped out there,
it's-
surrounded.
yeah.
You know, and they couldn't. Yeah, who
get out,
knows?
who knows? Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, for as far as my faith and stuff, it's definitely gotten stronger through this whole experience.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's on the surface you'd be like, oh, these two things can't exist, but yeah, I mean, it's weird. It's definitely weird, and I don't know. I find it interesting for sure.
Well, I find, and this is going to be a very crass oversimplification of things, but it's like you said, there's good and evil.
Yeah.
And if you take all the dogma out of religion, it just comes down to that. Like, do good, don't be a shithead. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Don't be evil. Don't be a scumbag, right?
Yeah, right.
And so,
Right.
and now you're just seeing that there's more out there, not in this realm or this whatever we are,
Yep.
in, you know, this earthly realm, for lack of a better term. Like, so
sure.
it makes sense. But it's just something I've noticed, that there's been a lot more Christian researchers into the paranormal stuff,
Yeah.
which is weird because like as when like our age, like that wasn't, like you said, that wasn't the case. That was like, don't touch that. Like
People-
that's all evil.
People poo-pooed all that stuff and was
Yeah.
like very against that kind of stuff, and like
Yeah.
all ghosts are demons, that kind of like mindset, which
is very New England and puritanical. And,
You
know,
think?
that they're all witches. You know
yeah,
what I mean? It's like,
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. You know, which is like part of our history too. You
Sure,
know.
yeah.
So it's like, yeah. But yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, I think that's a general culture shift, not even just in like with Christians. I think overall
Sure,
within the
yeah,
last 20, 30 years, probably more like
Yeah.
ghosts, Bigfoot especially.
Yeah.
Have just become widely accepted. I remember 20 years ago, you'd never see like the Bigfoot bumper stickers and all this like Bigfoot stuff. People made fun of people that believed in Bigfoot and stuff
or
like
you would
that.
see it, it'd be like a campy thing, for like a tourist
Harry and the
place,
Hendersons or something, you know?
or like in California in the big,
Sure.
you know, you see like a like maybe a touristy thing, like
Yeah,
where they're like, you
right.
know what I mean? But
Yeah, but
it was just all fun, you know,
for
it wasn't-
fun, but like no one took it seriously.
Exactly, yeah.
And anything like that. But I feel like nowadays with all of that stuff, it's like more widely acceptable to be like, oh, I'm into this thing without being afraid that you're going to get made fun of.
Yeah.
Because like I said, like, you know, I was on the confessionals when Tony first started doing like Bigfoot stuff. We're talking like 08, 09. Like all my buddies made fun of him for doing it. And we're like, oh, like, you know, why would you do that? Like that's not real. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so this is not even that long ago. So it just goes to show you over time, things have like, as far as paranormal stuff, has gotten more mainstream and like more people are into it than there was even when Ghost Hunters started and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I like Tony's platform because it's kind of ingenious in its way. It's like almost bringing coast to coast to the masses, where it's like, he's not just talking to quote unquote like experts in the field. He's talking to people who have experienced this
Right.
and just getting their experience with, and who knows what really happened.
Right.
But you're getting interesting stories, people
For
calling
sure.
in and telling a story like, you know, this happened to me. And so when you hear so much of that and there's so much overlap, it feels like there's got to be something going on.
Right,
You know,
for
like
sure.
not all these people are lying.
Oh, for
not
sure.
all these people have mental issues.
Absolutely.
Like
and
they're-
especially when you're right, when you have the correlating things where you
Yeah.
have two different people who don't even really know each other that have
Different
the same
parts of the country
different
or-
parts of
or
the country
wherever,
and they're
yeah.
having the same sort of experiences or like even to a T, some people, you know,
Yeah.
it's definitely interesting. Like there's something going on, you know, so.
And it gets even really weirder too, because like when people have like specific experiences, not just with like a random thing like shadow people. You know, shadow people, it's a thing, right? But then there's like certain types of shadow people that, you know, and I'm like, what?
Dude.
And you learn a lot.
Yeah.
It's like, but some dude in Iowa has this experience, some lady in Georgia, and someone, they're talking about a specific one with a hat or something.
Yeah, the Hat Man.
Hat Man and-
Dude, I saw like a little GIF. It was a GIF of like a little picture of all the different kinds of like shadow people. One, you know, here you're right. There's a Hat Man. There's the Hag.
Yeah.
There's the, you know, a witch type one. There's like endless amount. And many people have seen all these different versions of this like thing. So it's like, You know, like that's, and they're describing the same thing. Do you know what I mean? So there's got to be something to it, and no one knows what it is. But that's the fun part of, like you said, the fun part of the paranormal is the unknown.
Sure.
And trying to figure out, and then once you get that little like pieces of evidence that are like little glimpses to what that might be, then you just like you get hungry for it more because you're like, what's the, what else can I find? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? Yeah.
So, now, have you ever done any research around like the UFO stuff or alien stuff?
Not too much. Yeah. It's like out of all of the paranormal stuff, it's probably like my least talked about, or least I don't think I've ever done any videos on them. Or
well, it's a little bit harder for what you're doing.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, because I'd have to go out to maybe some spots where people have claimed to see them, and hopes that I could get it on camera or something like that.
So the odds of that,
right? Astronomical.
Although I don't know if you read, there's been like a little bit of uprising tick in the southeastern Mass area about some sightings lately.
Interesting. Well, funny you mentioned that. I had a sighting a couple months ago, and I don't think it's an alien craft. I think it was more just like kind of like what you saw, where it was like a ball of energy. Yeah. So I was driving down 495 South. In between, I don't know the exit numbers now because they changed them all, dude. Why did they do that?
Because they had to do something during the shutdowns. Like, I was like, the only thing we got out of the shutdowns is that they renumbered all the highway exits.
So I have no idea.
I don't even know anymore. I'm like, like take exit 8. Well, it's not 8 anymore. I don't know what it is. The old exit 8. Yeah. Now, it's.
I think there's a sign that says old exit 8 on it.
Yeah. Look for that.
Yeah. So in between exits 3 and 2 formerly. So like Middleborough, Wareham, in between that area. And in that area is Rocky Gutter, which is like a wildlife management area or something. Yeah. So I'm driving down the highway. It's like 4:40 in the morning, early. Yeah. Because my shop's in Wareham where I work. So I go there sometimes in the morning to pick up my stock and head out for the day. So I'm traveling down the road. There's no cars behind me for like at least a mile. I'm the only one on the road. And so in the tree line above my car, I see like what looks like an almond-shaped, just glowing white object that goes. It's traveling with me, going the same direction I am. So it's like maintaining speed with me, and then goes in front of me across the top of the trees to the other side of the road, and then turns into this like, instead of an almond shape, it just turns into a straight line of light and disappears. Like I said, it reminded me more of like energy than anything else. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just weird. I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen anything since like that. Weird. I travel that road all the time. Years. I've never seen anything like that.
Wow.
Weird. Just weird. I don't know what to make of it. You know.
Just something.
Just something. Kind of like the it was very similar to the orb thing you saw.
Yeah. Mine were definitely 2 round ones like this big. Like a softball size.
Yeah.
They just danced around and then they shot.
You think those are like the swamp lights that they talk about in the Huckamuck or something? They say those are like puckwudgies or something.
So
allegedly.
Yeah. I mean, could have been. I don't know what it was. I just know that when we were younger, a lot, like when we were like in middle school and high school, my friend Dave lived in one of the oldest houses in town in Dartmouth where he lived. The house had a lot of history. It was pre-Revolutionary War, old house. It had a hidden room off of the chimney. If you went up the chimney, then there was like this hidden room.
Interesting.
And it was supposed to be a spot on the Underground Railroad.
Sure.
How much credence I put in it, who knows? Because everyone who has a hidden room, it was in New England, it was a spot on the Underground Railroad. So who knows? But if it really was, but like literally, like his parents, everything. His father was like the editor of the newspaper, the Standard Times at the time.
Yeah, sure.
So he wasn't like a wishy-washy. And this is like before all this stuff was more accepted,
right?
Then they were always like, weird stuff happens. Like weird stuff, like they found a painting of the house in the back of an antique shop.
No way.
His mom's like, I put it up. And like later that night, it was just this big commotion downstairs. And I came downstairs and it sounded like a party. And she's like, and then she's like, there was nothing down there. She went back up. It started again. She went back up. She came down, started again. She walked over to the painting. She goes, if you guys don't stop it, I'm taking this painting back. And then it stopped and never happened again. Wow. Just weird stuff.
Yeah, sure.
But when we were there, and his sister experienced all kinds of weird stuff. I think like a shadow
figure or something. The Hat Man.
Yeah,
sure.
I didn't know it at the time, but she said, something with a hat.
Yeah.
But she said it was small. It was just weird. It wasn't like the
the tall
big
one people
tall,
describe nowadays. Yeah.
But we were all there. I didn't see this. I wasn't privy to it. But my friend Ryan, who's now deceased, and me and a couple other friends, and our friend Shad, who's like no nonsense
Sure.
guy, doesn't believe in any of this stuff.
Hard skeptic.
Hard skeptic, like not even like a skeptic, just super dismissive, like just grounded in this world.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome guy, but just not in any of this stuff.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Not into the weird shit. You know?
Right.
And so we're all there, and same type of thing. Like all of a sudden, I see them all looking at each other, and like Shad's face is like white, and he's like, "Yo, did you see that?" And the same thing, an orb shot across the room and into the other room. They all saw it. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
And like they had no reason to make it, but like they were
shocked.
Everyone was shaking up. Shaking up.
You know when something happens to someone, they
when
look
it's real. Yeah,
like, they look shocked.
Not faint.
Not trying to pull
fiends.
something over on you. You know.
And there was no reason to because we were just all hanging out or whatever.
Right.
And the Dave, the kid who lived there, was like, it was just par for the course. You know what I
Well,
mean?
that happened last week.
Yeah. But everyone else was all freaked out. But that's the only other time I heard about it, like an orb thing. But I know that's a common thing.
Yeah. Because I've seen like swamp lights like that.
Yeah.
In the Huckamuck, kind of like dancing around, changing colors.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, red, green.
Yeah.
And
so, but when everyone tries to explain on something natural, I'm like, no, there was nothing.
Yeah.
It wasn't swamp gas. When people try and blame everything on swamp
especially
gas.
where you are. There's
I'm not in the swamp, dude.
nowhere near a swamp.
Yeah, I'm driving down a road. And just in a real old part of town, and these things shot by. Like,
yeah, dude, that's weird.
And that's like where, it was kind of near where the old cemetery is up to, and it's like a private family one. I think. Like I don't think it's a public one. You know what I mean? So it's like just a small one,
right?
And it's in between all these old farms. You know what I mean? So it's not
right.
But
interesting.
If I have that one thing, that's cool.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. It's a great story, man.
I don't even know why we got on that, but we were just talking about, you were talking about it wasn't almond. These were like
we're talking about you. Yeah, right. Just like light.
And it wasn't big,
No, it wasn't like crazy big, but yeah, just weird.
Yeah, man.
It's a weird experience, man.
It's cool. There's cool stuff out there, and it's fun that, so like it's getting, even after like all the big shows are kind of done, like Ghost Hunters and all that stuff.
Or even Ghost Adventures is kind of having some issues and stuff like that.
But it's still growing on a grassroots level with more and more people getting involved with it, where now there can be an industry where a company can make spirit boxes or make other things, or those apps and whatnot, and people are going out investigating. But do you find that, I mean, obviously there's pros and cons to everything. I don't know how to ask this in a way, like I'm not trying to be offensive to anyone, but do you find that it's a good thing, or is there a lot of people that are just getting in and screwing around and like and doing more of a disservice to it by not doing it responsibly
or doing it truthfully?
Yeah. Truthfully or responsibly.
Yeah, dude. Unfortunately, I feel like no matter what, there's gonna always be those kind of people.
Yeah.
Those just the people that are just looking for that next click, or I won't name any names, but put it this way. Sometimes if it feels too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's like, especially on YouTube, especially, there's a lot of famous people on YouTube that, not all of them, but there's some famous people that I feel do a disservice. But I feel like it's just like anything else. I feel like normal people that have their head screwed on straight, that watch these kind of things, can pick up on that stuff.
Yeah. And there's some stuff you can watch just purely for entertainment.
For entertainment purposes. And see, that's where I don't have, like, if they went out there and were like, hey, this is just for entertainment purposes only, I would have no issue with any of the things that they do.
Or even if they put a little disclaimer in the notes or something.
Right, right. 100%. But, to go out there and to pretend that like you're, I don't know. It's just, it does rub me the wrong way for sure. But I feel like there's enough good people doing it the right way that those are the people that eventually will get, the right exposure or whatever, and kind of rise to the top eventually for sure. You know, because there's a lot of good people that do like paranormal videos that, you know, around my kind of level of people that are kind of uprising and coming up through the ranks that are like, seem to be like good people doing it the right way, not trying to like
right
just
intentions,
right. And not trying to get famous specifically just to get famous. They're interested
or
in
even
the
to the point where
paranormal.
it's monetized,
right.
You know, where you're making money.
And like, don't get me wrong, I would love to make money doing paranormal, but like, it's all about being truthful and getting in real evidence and not this other fake stuff.
And it's like you said, like you still go to your day job at 4:30 in the morning,
Absolutely.
and then do this on, you know,
yeah. I do this
weekends.
because I love it, and I, you know, I find it interesting, and you know, now I'm like hooked, and I don't know if I could ever stop. You know.
So do they mess with you at work for this?
Oh,
the stuff you do.
No, actually, not really. Most of them are pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
I had one guy ask me if I'm like, are you faking this stuff? Like, you know, is this stuff real?
Yeah.
That's, you know, and I'm like, yeah, it's real. Like, well, the nice thing about that is like I'm known at work as being a very honest person and like hardworking, and so they already know me. And
you already have an integrity,
right?
Like,
and so they know I wouldn't like do that or like make things up or like that kind of stuff. So like most of them are are cool about it, or like, you know, like talk about like, oh, where'd you go this week, Phill, or you know, that kind of thing. So
that's cool. Well, but that shows you a general shift in the world, right?
For sure. That's what we were just talking about. Yeah,
they're like even though they're not as into it, they're still interested or receptive to it, and they're not just ball busting about it.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't get that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I get maybe like the most I get that is a random comment from someone on, you know, TikTok or something that's like, oh, you know, this is all fake, or, you know, this is like whatever. Just people being assholes. It's like whatever. You know, but that kind of stuff, it's good for you, you know, when you're doing like content, because it gets you to have a little bit of a thicker skin. Yeah. Because not everyone is going to like what you do, and that's just how it is. And there's going to be people that are just being mean just to be mean, or you know what I mean? Like you got to be able to take that and accept it and be like, oh, whatever.
And just dismiss it.
Just dismiss it. Yeah. Because you can't.
Because you don't know what that person's doing. And the funny thing is like, if it, and I
could just be trolling.
No matter what, right? If you have any kind of presence online, no matter what it is you do, there's going to be someone that makes a jerk off comment
100%.
every now and then. And the thing is, if you give that too much energy, you know, that kid or person, you know, or guy or girl just wrote that and fired off and left, and they're not thinking about it. Why should you be still thinking about
Absolutely.
that? You know what I mean?
Right.
Constructive criticism always welcome, right?
For sure. Right.
And do you find that there's like a community around this where like you're like, hey, maybe you check this equipment out, or hey, you didn't have this dialed in right, you know, like maybe try it like this or something? Is there like generally?
Great question. Like, say if someone's seen one of my videos and we're like, oh yeah, once in a while that does happen, or they're like, oh, you know, you should do it this way, or like,
or not even on your videos, but like, is there like a community of researchers that you can consult? Be like, hey, because like, how did you learn how to do all this?
Oh, for sure. Like, I mean, most of it's just trial by fire, for sure. I mean, I definitely now I do have a group of guys, because I've been on so many like paranormal podcasts that I have like guys that are like into the paranormal, because in my regular life I don't have a lot of people that are like super into the paranormal that I can talk about. So I'm mostly just like making my weekly YouTube videos, chomping at the bit to talk to somebody about like what happened in my last, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
And they're not really interested in talking to me about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They are to a point. To a point.
You got 5 minutes. Go.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like, okay, Phill, let's talk about something else. You know.
Yeah.
So like, it is nice to have like a group of guys that I like. If something happens, I'm like, hey, listen to this. What do you think about this?
Yeah,
for sure. And I think that's how you grow. That's how you get better and stuff like that. And it's always important to get that kind of like you said, constructive criticism when you need it,
or feedback. Yeah,
feedback for
either
sure.
way, good or bad. Like
good or bad, because even if someone doesn't like something, at least you can make improvements on it, and that's how you get better.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's how we're all get better. You know, whether it's podcasting, YouTube, whatever you're doing, you know, that's how you get better. So,
because I'm sure your methods are far more refined now than they were 3 years ago.
For sure. And like I said, all the things I've learned is just on the fly, or seeing other people do it, and then kind of like replicate what they do, you know, and then kind of like make it your own. And then as you go along, then you start picking up on things and start learning different things, different tricks, and be like, oh, if I do this, then, you know what I mean? Just like, it's just like anything else.
Sure.
You know, you put the time in, and then eventually, like, you know, like you start learning more, then all of a sudden 5 years from now you're building bikes and you're like a bike expert. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
sure, yeah.
And that's
What they say, you got to get your 50,000 hours.
yeah,
and then
right,
to be
and then to be
master
like,
it.
Yeah, I heard something else where it was like something similar, where if you just spent, I can't remember what the hours were. It was like 10 hours on something or whatever. You'd be better than 70% of other people that have done it.
Yeah.
Because people give up.
Yeah,
and so
sure.
there's, you know what I mean? So if you just try, more than everyone else, you'll be better than a bunch of people. That's, so it's just, it's hard work, man. You got to put the work in.
Yeah. And you got to stay up and it's
dedicate yourself and discipline and like all that stuff.
Because I'm sure there's some days where it's like crappy out and you like,
For sure.
there's a million other things you'd rather do.
100%. Or, you got
You
stuff.
hold yourself accountable to go do it.
Yeah, and you got other stuff going on in your life. You're like, oh man, I got this, that, and the other thing. But you're like, I got to get out there. I got to film, or I got to edit. For me personally, it's the editing that takes the most time for me.
Yeah, no, I get that. Editing's tough because
for sure, it's
you got to
killer.
be focused.
Yep.
Because there's 1,000 ways you can edit anything.
Oh, especially when you're doing paranormal stuff, because you got to be like, make sure you're listening really closely.
Well, I like how you do it on your videos where you like, because EVPs are hard to hear.
100%.
So you put it out, and then your interpretation, what it says, you put in print.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, all right, cool. All right, I can see that.
Yeah, for sure.
And even if I'm not 100% on it, I can at least see
where I got that from.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, okay, I can see that coming from that. Like, I can't hear it, but I can see it. You know what I mean? But it's, when I say I can't hear it, it's literally because I'm like half deaf from
right.
30 years of punk rock shows.
Yeah, for
heavy
sure.
Metal shows,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I'm like,
no doubt.
Like, what? Like, like that tone deaf, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
I can hear it, but it's just like,
Yeah.
So I'd be the worst investigator.
Or trying to like collect evidence. Yeah, like there's a couple like go-go-go's over here. I'm not sure what they are, but they're definitely EVPs. You guys are gonna love them.
There's something on there. Yeah, I should almost do that as a joke.
Yeah.
Like the deaf paranormal research is like useless because it's all on fucking. You gotta hear the audio.
Yeah, it's like having a deaf sound guy.
Yeah.
How's it sound?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's cool. There's something.
Yeah.
So what's coming up, man? Like what you've been developing your channel and your stuff. Like what do you where are you going in the future with this? Or like what are your plans?
I do have a couple of videos I want to do specifically about like King Philip's War, because it's, for those people who don't know, King Philip's War is part of like New England history.
The country's history, really.
The country's history, because this is before, America was even America. This is when we were still the colonies. And so it was, war between the Pilgrims and the Native Americans in this area. And so there's a lot of battlefields. There's a lot of stories that come from this. Obviously, King Philip, we've mentioned a lot today. It's King Philip's War. So
we probably should have extrapolated on this earlier. It's like we're here and we know this. We're in New England.
We're not thinking about So it was a huge bloody war in New England, and so a lot of people might think that it's fueling some of the paranormal activity in the Bridgewater Triangle. That could be not the cause, but one of the causes. Just like Gettysburg or any other battlefield where blood is shed, a lot of bad things happen. So what I'm going to do,
especially if that's laying on top of already a negative energy,
right, or already haunted area, like it just amplifies it,
or some
even
kind
more.
of interdimensional situation,
or portals, whatever. Yeah, for sure.
There's already something there, and then this is happening on top of it.
It just adds to it. It just amplifies it even more. So one of my new things I'm gonna do is try to do like a lot of King Philip's War, like stories, and then also kind of try to bring the past alive and do like paranormal investigations in these spots.
Yeah.
And see if we can get some residual stuff from what might have happened there, or even spirits of, people that have maybe died in these spots and stuff like that. So that's what I'm going to probably try to do soon. I've already shot a little bit of footage in Halifax of a couple different sites. I haven't pieced it together yet, but it'll be like kind of like a historical / paranormal kind of thing.
That'd be interesting. Because
for sure.
Because even if you're not into the paranormal aspect of it, just given kind of like the history, will appeal to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And then adding that on top of it is just a little extra flavor that ties it all together.
And like we were talking about, it's a subject that not even a lot of Massachusetts people know, like the very specifics of what happened. Yeah. This at this site, this particular time, and all, that kind of stuff. So I think it's important to get that history out there again.
Yeah.
And like you said, who knows what paranormal stuff I'll catch while I'm in these spots and stuff like that. I have a feeling that I'm going to catch some stuff, and I'm so
you
excited.
already have at some of these places.
Absolutely. So it's like I know we're gonna catch stuff here. So it's like I said, history and paranormal like together. So that I was thinking about that kind of an angle too. And obviously, anything in Bridgewater Triangle that I haven't already gotten to, I'm gonna go again. I'm definitely gonna go to Freetown State Forest at night. I have not done a night investigation. Believe it or not, it's kind of hard to find people to want to go with you at night to Freetown State Forest.
Well, I'll tell you what. On this podcast, off the thing, me and Joe, a couple of guys, have been talking about that. So we'll be a backup crew.
Oh hell yeah, please, because it's
We'll
like
do it.
it's hard to find people that want to. It's it's a terrifying place. People don't want to go there.
Yeah.
I have a friend that literally gives me the hardest time in the world about Freetown State Forest. It's like you should never go there. Like it is adamantly like
There's a lot of like think about because of the stuff that happened there, especially with the cults and stuff when we were kids.
Sure.
There's a big aversion to going there.
Yeah.
Like even if it's just on that level.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to go out there. There's people out there doing stuff and whatever. Like
yeah, and there is doing weird stuff that you just
Yeah.
maybe you don't want to be around for when they're doing it. You know.
And like you said, you bring the right equipment with you.
Yeah, right. Then it's not really a problem.
Yeah. And we're all licensed. So
Yeah,
it's all right.
100%. We have to be. It's Massachusetts.
Yeah.
You kidding me?
You look at a gun and you don't have a license, you're going to jail.
Yep. 100%.
But yeah, man, like, and so outside of doing the King Philip's War stuff, like, is there any other historical stuff that you want to tie together with paranormal? Because it's so rich out here.
Oh, I know. I mean, I think eventually I'd like to get into like American Revolution kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really cool because I don't think anyone's really done that either.
All I want in life is to have a house where I open a floorboard and find a musket.
Oh my God.
Like a Civil War era.
Right.
Not a Civil
American
War, I mean,
Revolution one?
Revolutionary
Oh my
War era
God,
musket.
right?
You don't hear about that anymore. But when you were kids, like people were finding that stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm. Right. And some, like, especially in New England, there's a lot of old homes around here, especially.
There's so many houses in Freetown that were built in the 1600s, like before the country was a country, like almost 100 years before.
Yeah.
It was. It's bananas. Like,
right.
And that's why, like, when my friends come from out of town, or like especially like from like the West Coast or Arizona and stuff, they're always like, just like their mind's blown when they come around. Like, yeah, that house is for sale. It's built in like 1680 or whatever. They're like, what?
Yeah, they're blown away.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's nothing. That's the oldest part of the country as far as America goes. So like,
Yeah, I mean, Plymouth Rock's a couple.
a couple towns
over.
away. You know what I mean? It's like not far away at all. You know. Yeah.
So it's interesting.
For sure.
I think you do good with that, man. I think there's so many history shows. Like, and I'm not saying that because there's so many history. I mean, so there's obviously an interest, right?
Yeah. Right.
And then if you're mixing that with the paranormal, like you're weaving the whole story, and then saying, all right, we're gonna.
Exactly.
This was a site of a battle. This happened here. This playing off the last episode. Last episode we talked about this. Now we're over here. Let's see what we can find.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. It's
cool.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Between a combination of that and like some urban legend stuff.
Yeah.
Which is super fascinating.
absolutely.
Everyone loves an urban legend. So
Yeah. And but I think you do good with that history. I can't think of anything.
Like I said, it's an untapped market for sure.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of anything off the top of my head where it's like those two things together.
Yeah.
You know
I'm
what I
sure
mean?
there's been something, but
I'm
it's
sure.
it's not like that's not the
Not
usual way
widely
to-
known. Yeah, not
And
widely known.
you could create like a whole like season or a chapter just based on that.
Right.
That thing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
sure.
Then follow it up, do podcast about it or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
right, exactly.
Kill it. You'll kill it with that.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah,
Cool,
man.
man. Dude, look at this. We're at 2 hours, man.
I can't believe, dude, it's gone by so fast.
it's like
So fast.
Bananas. But is there anything else that we haven't touched on? Is there any other experiences you had that stick out, or like any other?
I will say, if you want, I can bring up something that it's an EVP that I got in the Huckamuck that I haven't brought up on any other podcast.
Oh, absolutely, man.
It was just such a chilling and just such a weird response that I got.
Yeah.
And so I'm out in the Huckamuck, and it's an area where I've got many different EVPs. This is the area where I've heard the noises, we were talking about before.
Oh, and also, if you don't mind, if you can send me it later.
Yeah.
I can splice it in at the end of the episode.
Oh, sure.
So like,
yeah.
like,
the EVP itself?
Yeah,
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 hell yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
or even if some of your talk around it, like if
Oh,
you got
sure.
like a 30-second clip of you asking the question and the response.
Oh yeah,
from-
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is like a weird one. So again, a bathroom break. And so I go in a bathroom break, I put my camera down, it's just running. And then as I go in the bathroom break, I catch an EVP that says, "Careful who you go with."
And you heard that You heard it too?
No, just later. I caught it later, but it was clear.
Yeah.
Like clear, like careful who you go with. You know, and it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Who are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are you like? What? You know what I mean? It's just like weird. Like that one kind of just like creeped me out a little bit because it's got, I don't know.
Because it's just so cryptic. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
and it could be something like very benign too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's the point. That you don't know.
You don't know. That's the thing. That's the creepy
that
part
makes
about
it fun. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So it's just a very clear EVP, and it's just like, all right, I don't know. Okay, thank you. I will, I guess.
Yeah. I'm always careful who I go with.
Yeah.
But is there any other legends or creatures or anything that's
that we didn't talk about that is in the Hockomock?
I think we hit
I think we got pretty much all of them. I don't think there's, we talked about Thunderbird, Puckwudgies, Bigfoot, Dogman, all that kind of stuff.
We didn't talk too much about Dog. Is Dogman something that's supposed to be in the Hockomock?
Alleged. I mean, I think in the past, I feel like Dogman's like a thing that's just been like a recent phenomenon.
Yeah.
Or at least people have been talking about it more recently.
Yeah.
So like in the past, I don't think I've ever heard anyone mention that they had a specific Dogman encounter. Now they've had like the guy in the Bridgewater Triangle documentary, he had an encounter with something out there that was like following him on the shoreline.
Yeah.
That kind of smelled and stuff like that. So
the Dogman's supposed to be like a bipedal
yeah.
Dogman.
Right.
As it's,
it's exactly what it
think
sounds
about like
like.
a werewolf when it transforms.
Correct. It's exactly a lichen or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what they're allegedly like. So I think the Dogman stuff's super interesting. Like I said, it seems like the last couple of years there's been an uptick in it.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is that about?
Yeah. Is it just more of them? Or
Is it right?
Yeah.
And it's just weird. So I don't like. That's one of those things I don't know what to make of it. I don't know if they are there, but
and those don't seem to be particularly shy about showing themselves to people.
no, not like Bigfoot, where Bigfoot's more like, they hide a lot more, it seems, or don't want to be seen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's weird. Definitely weird. I don't know what to make of it.
No.
I have not gotten enough evidence to be like, yeah, I think there's Dogman in the Hockomock or whatever, besides the wolf encounter I had,
Sure.
So.
We did, I don't know if we mentioned, but yeah, there is not just like dogs or like big wolves and stuff, but there are supposed to be, like, I know there was legends of like big cats and like big snakes and things like that.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
I forgot about that.
Snakes that are like 25 feet long and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The workers, when they were building I think it was the power lines or something, they saw huge snakes and they went running out of there.
Yeah.
And so that's like a confirmed report that they did. They definitely saw a snake that they ran from in the swamp, which is interesting. Not only that, since you mentioned the animals, it just triggered my mind because of the dangerous animals claims in the Hockomock, I asked on the spirit box, are there any dangerous animals around? And without skipping a beat, it said panthers twice.
Yeah.
And that's another claim, like black panthers and stuff like that, in unusual areas that people claim to see.
What a weird place with winters and stuff. You don't think of a panther as being you think that'd be in a more like a hot climate
animal, right? Yeah. Or like Florida or something like that.
Yeah. Some jungle in Peru or something,
right. And to make
India
it
or something.
right, and to make it even weirder, when I was out there, now this could have been a bobcat, it could have been any kind of cat. I don't know cat noises, I don't know cat calls, but I heard a row out there in the swamp. So is that a panther? I don't know, but it was a big cat though. It was some sort of big cat, whether that's a bobcat, lynx, I don't know what it was, but it was a big cat.
Yeah,
for sure.
There are mountain lions.
Oh, for sure.
Not far from here.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. And they thought that they weren't around, but they definitely are.
Yeah.
Just like the bear that was in Taunton.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Nothing surprises me. Well, ever since that bear went across Cape Cod and all that stuff, I'm like, dude, I'm not surprised at all if I see anything.
As more and more development happens.
For sure.
Obviously, things like the forest and the swamp are protected places. Like nothing's encroaching on that. But the areas around it, as more and more stuff gets built.
People are selling land like crazy.
Yeah,
and building houses.
There's no more houses to buy, so you have to buy land and build a house. It's crazy.
Yeah, or build a new apartment complex.
Yeah,
they're everywhere.
Developers are going bananas.
Oh, yeah, dude.
I'm like, how many people are there? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Are people really moving here? Like, what? Why? Why are you moving here?
It's expensive. How
that's what I mean. It's like, if you're not from here, why would you move here? Like,
I don't know.
I get it. Like if you live in Boston and you're trying to get out of
Try to
that
save money.
craziness,
Yeah.
you come down here. You know what I
Sure.
mean? But
Right.
you're not even saving money anymore.
I know, dude. It's the housing market's ridiculous.
I bought at the right time, just like a few years ago, like
Oh, good
5
for
years
you.
ago. Like
Good
but,
for you.
Like I wouldn't be able to afford my house now. Like
Oh, dude.
it doubled.
I don't know how people are doing it. There's people that are buying homes. They're buying ranches for $500,000.
Yeah. I'm like,
And I was like, how much is your mortgage payment? Like $2,500, $3,000 a month? Like,
yeah, it's crazy. Like,
how are you doing that?
Yeah.
And the answer is they're not doing it, because it's just like '08 all over again.
I know.
You know?
And even the rents around here. New Bedford used to be a place where you find an $800
Right. Or Fall
apartment.
River or something.
Yeah,
You could
yeah.
find like $400, $600.
Yeah, yeah.
Easy.
Nope,
Not
nothing
anymore.
Nothing under $1,200, $1,300, and you're in the hood.
Right. And it's like,
Yeah, like
good God almighty.
bananas. Like,
Dude,
yeah.
it's absurd. Massachusetts, here we go, turn it into like a Massachusetts complaining.
Yeah, don't come here. Yeah. I remember
Please don't come here.
my favorite thing when I was a kid. There used to be a shirt in Boston. You remember like if you went down the park, right?
Sure.
And, like near the T stop, like they would have carts selling shirts.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Of course.
there was a shirt. It was so perfect for the time. Like, and I'm being kidding here when I say it, but the shirt was perfect. I'm going to remake it. The front just said "Welcome to Boston," and then the back just said "Now go home."
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Like,
Hell yeah.
we got enough people here.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah. We do have a dislike towards tourism,
Yeah.
to tourists too.
But the beautiful thing, and I jest with all that, but like the beautiful thing is, and now we're going to ruin it, especially with things like this with this podcast, is that the South Coast is like the hidden gem.
Yeah.
And like, my favorite thing is like, even other people in Massachusetts, like they're like, "Where's the shop or where you live?" I'm like, "Freetown." And they're like, "Where's that?" And I'm like, "Exactly. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
If you don't know where it is, don't worry about
Yeah,
it."
please.
Like, you know what I mean? But like little towns, like
No,
like,
I know.
like-
I know.
like a
That's the
song.
heart of
Yeah,
Massachusetts, man, are
It's
these
like
little towns,
little towns,
Freetown, Dayton,
Yeah.
Middleborough,
Abington,
that's the heart of Massachusetts. It's not Cambridge,
Rochester, yeah. Yeah. But that's the beautiful part, though, is like that we're so close, like close enough to Boston, but still people don't know where
Oh,
this is.
100%, right. Yeah.
And no one wants to come here because it's weird and satanic and haunted and and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's actually benefit for you guys here, for sure. You know what I mean?
I'm playing, but yeah, just think this is cursed land. Don't come.
Yeah. Don't want to come here.
You don't want to live in the triangle, maybe.
No,
you don't
dude,
want to live in
absolutely
the
not.
triangle. All right, man. Well, thank you. Why don't you give a shout out again for all your socials?
Sure.
And again, this will all be in the show notes. But where can people find you? Especially, shout out to YouTube, and I'll put links to all that.
Sure. I do, like I said in the beginning of the show, I do a weekly podcast every single Thursday, 7 p.m. A new video comes out. Canadian Dutch Boys Studios is my channel. Please subscribe. I would love to subscribe. And if you guys do subscribe, just comment one of my videos where you guys live, so I know. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
And as far as my socials go, Exploring with Phill. That's Phill with 2 L's pretty much everywhere. Minus Twitter, which is exploring_Phill, because Exploring with Phill doesn't fit. I don't know why Twitter's like that. It's the only one that it doesn't
Because no
fit.
one can find you on there. They're looking for Exploring with Phill.
That's exactly why we were talking about this before the show. But
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all my socials.
Absolutely, man. Give them a like, give them a follow. Follow first, and then or subscribe, and then make sure you give a like and leave a comment. Get them up in the algorithms.
Yeah, hell yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, man.
Let's set up a little bit closer this time. We haven't got any word banks in a little while. And it's been quiet since I've been walking over here. I've heard no noises besides what sounded like some ice falling down into the water, possibly.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.